Hey, sis, why didn't you come to mom's funeral? What? I can't believe my own sister wouldn't show up for our mother's funeral. You're so cold-hearted. It's just awful. How could you do something like that? No decent person would. The call from my sister left me speechless. Mom had passed away 3 years ago, and we'd already had the funeral. I had no idea what she was talking about. I'm married now, raising a family. My husband and I both work, but we make sure to shower our kids with extra love and attention. He's supportive in every way, from housework to parenting, and I feel so proud of the life we've built together. I've always been determined to give my children a happy home, one they'll never question like I did when I was their age. My childhood was complicated. My parents divorced when I was in elementary school because of my mom's affair, a secret that came out because I told my dad. Everyone expects children to side with their mother, but that wasn't the case for me. My mom was far from the loving figure you'd imagine. I don't have any memories of her affection, not for me. Anyway, she only had that for my younger sister. It felt like even simple household chores were too much of a burden for her, so they became my responsibility, more of an obligation than a choice. After I exposed her affair, my mom's resentment toward me grew. She despised me for betraying her, and I was left with deep emotional and physical scars from her cruelty. When the divorce was finalized, she took my sister and left. Even so, my dad and grandparents made sure I could still see my sister regularly, at least for a while. By the time I reached middle school, the visits became less frequent. I thought it was just the natural drift of adulthood, but it turned out my sister was intentionally avoiding me. I confronted her after she turned down a few attempts to meet up. That's when she told me what our mom had said. In her eyes, I was the reason our family fell apart. She believed I was a traitor. Worse, she feared that if she stayed close to me, she'd be abandoned next. She couldn't bear to meet with me anymore, not without risking our mother's wrath. She wanted me to stop talking about it. I explained that our mom was the one who broke up the family by cheating on our dad. My sister knew about the affair too, but I was the one who told him. Even though she understood this, she still blamed me, saying I was the traitor because she had to live with our mom. She wouldn't listen, insisting it was my fault for not staying quiet and pretending everything was fine. While all this was happening, my dad got remarried, and I gained a stepmother. It felt strange at first, but my stepmother tried hard to be a good mother to me. Seeing how much effort she put in, I decided to embrace my new family and appreciate her. I stopped reaching out to my sister, and before long, we lost contact completely. I didn't feel any attachment to my biological mother, who had only ever cared about my sister. I was able to go to college and eventually found a job. Just when I was ready to repay my dad and stepmother for everything they did for me, my dad passed away in an accident. Even though we hadn't been close, I let my sister know that our dad had died, but instead of offering any sympathy, she just said, "Serves him right," and laughed. I expected her and my mom to come to the funeral, but they never showed up. Yet, when it was time to talk about my dad's inheritance, they both appeared out of nowhere. Everyone was shocked by how they looked, wearing flashy clothes and heavy makeup. They barely looked like the people I remembered. It seemed they enjoyed dressing up like that now. They complained that they weren't told about the inheritance meeting date and had to keep checking every day. My mom had been hanging around, hoping to join in on the inheritance discussion. I thought it would have been better if she had just come to the funeral instead. The inheritance talk was scheduled right after the funeral, so it wasn't hard to figure out. During the meeting, my mom said, "Because of you, my poor daughter suffered. You'll make sure we get a fair share, right?" Even though my parents were divorced and lived apart, my sister and I still had the right to inherit from our father. I had no plans to refuse that. However, my father didn't have a large estate, and it wasn't enough to be split among everyone. I could earn my own money, and my stepmother was still young and able to continue working. She planned to keep working for a while, so even if I gave my father's inheritance to my biological mother, my stepmother wouldn't face any financial hardship. I didn't want any more conflict, so I gave up my claim to the inheritance. My mother, however, began mocking my father, calling him stupid for making such a big deal out of her affair and pushing for a divorce. She said she only agreed to it because he was small-minded. My sister chimed in, saying it wasn't our dad who left mom, but the other way around, mocking me for living with him. They both laughed, insulting my father even though he had passed away. My sister even took a shot at me, saying it was pathetic I was raised by a man who got dumped, and that I looked older than my own mother. She ridiculed me for not having a boyfriend, saying I wasn't a real woman if I couldn't attract a man. Their cruelty stung. But I calmly asked them not to speak ill of our father, especially now that he was gone. That only provoked them more, and they accused me of being the root of all the family's problems. After a heated argument, my mother and sister told me never to contact them again and stormed out. Surprisingly, I didn't feel anger or disappointment, I just felt empty. In that moment, they were erased from my life. After they left, there was a long silence in the room, broken only when someone coughed, bringing me back to reality. The inheritance was quietly divided after that. Years later, my stepmother inherited the house my father had left behind, and I stayed there with her. Even though I was an adult, she continued to try to be a mother to me, and her support meant the world. But eventually, she became ill and had to be hospitalized. "I'm sorry," she said. "I didn't ask you to live with me just so you could take care of me." "I know," I replied, "but even if we lived separately, I'd still take care of you, don't worry." I visited her in the hospital during my breaks from work, wanting to be there for her as much as possible. I didn't want to feel the regret I had after my father passed away. I was determined to spend as much time with her as I could, even if it was more for my own peace of mind. During this difficult time, one person stood by me, my partner. Before we found out about my stepmother's illness, we had been talking about marriage. When the diagnosis came, I asked if we could delay it, but he suggested we go through with it to bring some comfort to my stepmother. His support was everything I needed. When the time was right, I introduced him to my stepmother. "I'm looking forward to the three of us living together," he told her, offering her the reassurance she needed. "He's a wonderful man. I have to make sure I see you in your wedding dress, for your father's sake too," my stepmother said with a smile. It seemed to be her greatest joy, and she ended up living longer than the doctors initially expected. But a few days after my wedding, she passed away, joining my father. My stepmother was wealthy, and I inherited a large sum of money. 3 years later, with what she left behind, I was able to build a happy family. However, from the start of our marriage, my husband and I had decided to live within our means and not rely on the inheritance, so we both continued working. One day, like usual, I was at work when I received a call from an unknown number on my personal phone. Assuming it was a sales call, I ignored it, but the number kept calling over and over. Thinking it might be a mistake, I finally answered at the end of the day. It was my sister, the one I had cut ties with. "Finally, why didn't you come?" "Come where? What are you talking about?" I asked, confused. "How could you forget our mother's funeral?" she cried, her voice heavy with tears. "What are you talking about? Mom's funeral was 3 years ago," I replied, completely puzzled. There was a brief pause, then she spoke angrily. "Oh, maybe your stepmother died too. I'm talking about our real mother. Calling someone you're not even related to mother is disgusting." Her words irritated me, but I brushed it off, realizing she must be in shock from losing her mother. To me, though, my real mother was my stepmother. She had married my dad and taken on the role of a mother to me, a middle schooler at the time, practically overnight. I didn't fully appreciate her efforts until I had a family of my own. Raising a child without a blood connection, like through adoption, is challenging for many, but my stepmother did it without hesitation. Becoming a mother to a middle schooler all of a sudden must have been incredibly difficult for her. When I think about everything she did for me, I feel nothing but gratitude. I owe so much to her, and she is the mother I aspire to be. Blood doesn't define family. The biological mother my sister referred to never even acknowledged me. So, when I think of mother, I think of my stepmother, not the woman who gave birth to me. Realizing what my sister had meant, I answered calmly, "Oh, I see." I heard banging or stomping on the other end of the line, followed by her furious voice. "What's with that indifferent attitude? The funeral is over, and you didn't even come. It's awful not to attend your own mother's funeral. You're so cold-blooded." Even though she had a point, my sister hadn't shown up at our father's funeral either. Our father, who passed away, loved both my sister and me equally. In fact, I think he was far more caring than our mother. Neither my birth mother nor my sister attended his funeral, yet they took his inheritance and insulted him afterward. If you ask me, they are the ones who seem heartless. My sister called me indifferent, but I reminded her, "Well, we're practically strangers now, aren't we? You didn't even come to Dad's funeral, but still interfered with the inheritance. Weren't you the one who told me never to contact you again? And I just found out about our mother's death now." After a brief pause, she said softly, "Oh, I forgot. I meant to tell you about the funeral." "Well, I'm glad you remembered, but I'm renouncing any inheritance from our mother, so do whatever you want with it." With that, I hung up. A few days later, my sister called again. Help me, Katie. Mom was apparently hinting at marriage to several men. Isn't that like marriage fraud? They're threatening to sue me if I don't pay compensation. Then just pay them, I replied. If I could, I wouldn't be calling you. It's not just one or two men, and some of them seem pretty dangerous. That's tough, I said, but remember, you're the one who told me not to contact you. Plus, you already knew Mom had a history with men. She cheated on Dad when he was alive, and it wasn't just one affair. If it had only been one person, maybe our father could have forgiven her, thinking it was just a mistake, but she had multiple affairs, and only our father truly knew the depth of her betrayals. I think that's why he tried to adopt you several times through a lawyer, but you didn't want to leave Mom. You chose to stay with her, even though you saw how irresponsible she was. My sister struggled to respond, muttering, well, I continued, you called me a traitor, remember? I don't need a sister who sees me that way. You were the one who declared us strangers first, so don't come around now acting like family. It's a nuisance. Don't ever contact me again, we're strangers. After all. I hung up without waiting for her response, blocked her number, and returned to my home where my family was waiting for me. Later, I received a call from my biological mother's relatives. They apologized for the way my mother and sister had treated me, but for me, it was already over. I decided to listen to what my relatives had to say. They remembered how poorly my mom treated me and were shocked that she had the nerve to go after my father's inheritance after we had cut ties. They apologized for letting her visit me while I was still grieving, but I assured them that it was all in the past. Next, they told me about my sister. Apparently, she was just as reckless with men as our mother had been. Ever since she came back, the relatives had warned her that she would face consequences if she didn't change her behavior. Instead of listening, my sister became exactly like our mother, and the family could no longer control her actions. Mom got involved with bad men, and my sister was dragged into illegal activities because of it. Feeling trapped, my sister started dating multiple men at once, leading to several heated confrontations. The relatives finally told her they would cut ties if she didn't turn her life around. When our mother died, they followed through with that decision since my sister was an adult. Right after our mother's funeral, there was another confrontation, and since then, no one has known where my sister went. The relatives advised me not to get involved with her anymore. I hadn't planned on it anyway, but I couldn't help feeling a little sorry for her. Maybe there was some sympathy to be found in the fact that she got pulled into criminal activities. Still, there must have been ways for her to make things right. If she didn't, that's on her. That's what I decided after the call ended. As I hung up, I heard my husband and children laughing in the next room. I felt a strong need to protect the family I had now, and I resolved to live my life using my mother and sister as examples of what not to become.
The knocking started at midnight. 3 sharp raps that made my wine glass shiver on the coffee table. I muted the true crime documentary I'd been half watching and waited, hoping whoever it was would give up and leave. They didn't. The knocking came again, more insistent this time. Through the peephole I saw him, my father, Mark, looking decidedly less polished than the last time I'd seen him 2 years ago. His usually pristine suit was wrinkled, his silver hair disheveled. I'm Kylie, and I hadn't spoken to my father since the day I walked out of his house, leaving behind his manipulative games and his wife Vivian's quiet cruelty. Yet here he was, standing in the hallway of my apartment building at midnight on a Tuesday. "Come on, sweetheart, open up. I know you're in there." His voice carried that familiar, honey-smooth tone that always preceded asking for something. I kept my hand on the chain lock. "It's midnight, Dad. What do you want? Can't a father visit his daughter?" He attempted a warm chuckle that fell flat. "I've had, some difficulties. I need a place to stay for a few days." The wine in my stomach turned sour. "Where's Vivian?" "That's complicated." He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture I remembered from childhood, his tell when he was about to spin a story. "Things haven't been good at home. I lost my job last week, and Vivian, she's not handling it well." I could picture Vivian's reaction perfectly. Her practiced, concerned expression, masking calculation, already plotting how to turn this situation to her advantage. "What happened to all those commission checks, the investment properties?" "Gone." He pressed his forehead against the door. "I made some mistakes, Kylie. bad investments. I know I don't deserve your help, but I have nowhere else to go. The old me would have opened the door immediately, desperate for any scrap of paternal attention. But I'd spent 2 years in therapy unlearning that instinct. "What about Liam?" I asked, referring to my younger brother. "Can't you stay with him?" "He's still in college, living in the dorms. Please, Kylie, just for a few days while I sort things out." I studied him through the peephole again. The desperate edge in his voice seemed genuine, but then again, it always did. I remembered the last time I'd believed him, when he'd promised to protect me from Vivian's subtle sabotage. Instead, he'd stood by while she systematically undermined every achievement, every relationship I tried to build. "Dad, I can't—" "I'll tell you everything," he interrupted, "about your mother, about what really happened after she died, things you need to know." My hand froze on the chain lock. He'd never voluntarily brought up Mom before. Any mention of her had been met with swift subject changes or convenient phone calls he had to take. "You're trying to manipulate me," I said, but my voice wavered. "No manipulation, just truth. Finally." He pulled something from his pocket, a worn envelope with my mother's handwriting on it. "I should have given you this years ago." My throat tightened. I recognized that envelope. I'd seen Mom writing letters in the weeks before her death, but they'd disappeared afterward. When I'd asked about them, Dad claimed he'd never seen them. "Why now?" I managed to ask. "Because I'm tired of pretending, of lying. Maybe losing everything is what I needed to finally do right by you." My hand moved to the chain lock again, but this time I slid it open. Not because I believed him, I knew better now, but because that envelope held answers I'd spent 15 years searching for, and I was done letting him control access to my own history. As I opened the door, the look of relief on his face almost seemed genuine. Almost. "Thank you, sweetheart," he said, stepping inside. "You won't regret this." But watching him survey my apartment with those calculating eyes, I already did. Whatever game he was playing, whatever crisis had driven him to my door, I had just invited it in. The question was, could I beat him at it this time? The envelope sat unopened on my kitchen counter all night, a cream-colored accusation. Dad had passed out on my couch, his soft snores a rhythm I remembered from childhood road trips, back when Mom was still alive and everything made sense. I touched the edge of the envelope, tracing Mom's handwriting. The paper felt delicate, like it might crumble under my fingers. Just like every good memory I had of her, seemed to crumble under the weight of what came after. My phone buzzed, a text from Liam. "Dad's with you? Vivian's going nuclear." Before I could respond, another message popped up. "She's saying he stole money from their joint account. A lot of money." The coffee I was drinking turned bitter in my mouth. Of course there was more to the story. There always was with Dad. "You should have come to me first." The voice made me jump. Dad stood in the kitchen doorway, his suit even more rumpled after sleeping in it. I would have explained about Vivian. Explain now. I slid Liam's text across the counter. "What money?" He picked up my coffee mug and took a long sip, a habit that used to drive Mom crazy. "It was my money too. I earned it. Vivian she changed after we got married, started controlling everything. The accounts, the house, even how I dressed." He gestured at his wrinkled suit. "This is the first time I've worn what I wanted in years." That doesn't answer my question. 200,000, our retirement fund. He set the mug down carefully. I had to take it. She was going to. My phone rang. Vivian's name flashed on the screen. "Don't," Dad said quickly. "She'll try to manipulate you. She always does." Rich coming from him. I answered anyway, putting it on speaker. "Hello?" "Kylie, thank goodness." Vivian's voice dripped with careful concern. "Is your father with you? I'm worried sick. He's not well, sweetheart. He's been having episodes, making wild accusations. The doctors think—" "What doctors?" Dad interrupted loudly. "More lies, Vivian? Is that all you know how to do?" "Mark?" Her tone shifted instantly from concern to sharp. "You need to come home." We can work this out privately, as a family. There's no need to involve the children. I'm 24, I said, not a child. Of course not, dear. But you don't understand the situation. Your father, he's been unstable since losing his job, making paranoid claims about me trying to control him. He needs help, not enablement. I watched Dad's face as she spoke. For the first time, I saw something crack in his practiced charm, real fear flickering behind his eyes. The letter, I said suddenly. Show me what's in it. Dad's hand tightened around my coffee mug. Not with her listening. What letter? Vivian's voice sharpened further. Mark, what have you done? He reached for the envelope on the counter, but I snatched it first. The paper was thin enough to see there were several pages inside. Kylie, Vivian said, whatever he's shown you, it's part of his delusion. You remember how he got after your mother died? The drinking, the paranoia. I never drank, Dad shouted. That was your story. You told everyone I was drunk the night Sarah died, but I wasn't. I would never... He stopped abruptly, colour draining from his face. The silence that followed felt like glass about to shatter. What about the night Mum died? I asked quietly. Nothing, Dad said quickly. Too quickly. Vivian's trying to confuse things like always. But Vivian was laughing now, a cold sound that raised the hair on my arms. Oh, Mark, still protecting your secrets? Tell her. Tell her where you really were that night. Or should I? Dad lunged for my phone, but I pulled it away. What is she talking about? Don't, he pleaded. Not like this. Read the letter first, please. Your mother explains everything. I looked down at the envelope in my hands, then at my father's desperate face, and finally at Vivian's name glowing on my phone screen. Someone was lying. Maybe everyone was. I'm hanging up now, I told Vivian, and Dad's staying here until I read this letter and figure out what's true. You're making a mistake, Vivian said softly. But then, you always do choose him, don't you? Just like your mother did. Right up until the end. The line went dead before I could respond, leaving me alone with my father and an envelope full of 15-year-old secrets that suddenly felt like a live bomb in my hands. I found the bank statements in Dad's briefcase while he was in the shower. Not snooping, just looking for answers he wouldn't give me about Mum's letter, which he'd somehow managed to make disappear again. Instead, I found something worse. Transfer records showing systematic withdrawals from accounts I'd never known existed, dating back to the month after Mum died. My hands shook as I took pictures with my phone. The amounts were staggering. Hundreds of thousands moved through shell companies with names like Sunset Ventures and Coastal Holdings. Dad's signature was on everything, but Vivian's elegant scrawl appeared too, authorizing transfers that had slowly drained what must have been Mom's life insurance money. The bathroom door opened. I shoved the papers back, but not before noting one final detail, a recurring transfer to an account holder named Sarah Mitchell. My mother's maiden name. Still here? Dad appeared in fresh clothes, his hair damp. I thought you'd be at work by now. Called in sick. I watched his face carefully. Had some research to do. His expression flickered, just for a moment, but I caught it. About Sarah Mitchell. The colour drained from his face. Where did you hear that name? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Meet me at Riverside Park, 1 p.m. Come alone if you want the truth about your mother. E. No one, I lied to Dad. Just something I remembered. He studied me with the same calculating look he used to give difficult clients. Kylie, there are things about your mother. Complications you don't understand, like the fact she was still alive 6 months after you told us she died. The words hung between us like a live wire. I hadn't meant to reveal I'd seen the transfer dates, but his reaction confirmed everything. He sank into a chair, suddenly looking every bit his age. How long have you known? About 30 seconds, based on your face. My voice sounded strange, distant. Why, Dad? Why would you? A key turned in my front door. The spare I'd given Liam for emergencies. My brother burst in, face flushed. Vivian's gone. She cleared out all the accounts this morning. Everything. Dad jumped up. That's impossible. She doesn't have access to the Sarah Mitchell account, I interrupted. Or just the regular ones. Liam's head snapped between us. Who's Sarah Mitchell? Our mother, I said, just as Dad shouted, no one. My phone buzzed again. Same unknown number. Time's running out. The truth dies with Eleanor if you don't come now. Eleanor. Our grandmother. Dad's mother, who disappeared from our lives the same time Mom died. I have to go, I said, grabbing my keys. Dad grabbed my arm. Whatever you think you know, I yanked away. Don't touch me. 15 years, Dad. 15 years of lies about Mom, about money, about everything. And now Vivian's gone with all of it. Not all, Liam said quietly. She left this. He held out an envelope, identical to Mom's letter, but newer. Inside was a single photo. Mom, very much alive, sitting in a hospital room. The timestamp showed a date 6 months after her supposed death. Behind her stood Eleanor, and in Mom's arms was a baby. That's not possible, I whispered. That baby would have been born after I told you your mother died in a car crash, Dad finished, his voice hollow. After I married Vivian, after everything changed. My phone buzzed one final time. Eleanor doesn't have much time left, neither does Sarah. Choose wisely. I looked at the photo again, at the baby whose age made no mathematical sense unless everything I thought I knew about my family was a lie. I'm going to Riverside Park, I announced, alone. Kylie, please, Dad reached for me again. You don't understand what you're walking into. But I was already moving, the photo burning in my pocket like a verdict. Behind me, I heard Liam ask, Dad, why does that baby look exactly like Kylie did at that age? I closed the door on Dad's response, but not before I saw the guilt in his eyes. Guilt that suggested the answer to Liam's question would shatter whatever remained of our family's carefully constructed lies. The truth was waiting at Riverside Park, and this time, no one would stop me from finding it. Eleanor wasn't at Riverside Park. Instead, I found Sophie waiting on our usual bench, clutching a manila envelope and looking like she hadn't slept in days. Before you say anything, she started, rising to meet me, I've been helping your grandmother for months. She made me promise not to tell you until it was time. The betrayal hit like a physical blow. Sophie, my best friend, my confidant through every crisis since college, had been keeping secrets about my own family. Where is she? My voice came out harder than I'd intended. Hospital, St. Mary's. Sophie held out the envelope. She wanted you to see these first, said you needed to understand before you came. Inside were more photos. Mom in different locations, a cabin, a beach, a garden I didn't recognize. All dated after her supposed death. In each one, she looked progressively more ill, but alive. Definitely alive. There's more, Sophie said quietly. The last photo made my knees buckle. Mum in a hospital bed, holding not one baby but two. Twins. The date stamp matched the photo Vivian had left. That's impossible, I whispered, but the evidence was right there in my shaking hands. I don't have a twin. According to Eleanor, you did. Sophie touched my arm. Your father and Vivian separated you. Each took one baby. The world tilted sideways. I grabbed the bench for support, memories realigning themselves like pieces of a broken mirror. The strange comments Vivian had made over the years about her real daughter. The way Dad sometimes looked at me with guilt so deep it seemed to age him. My phone buzzed. Liam, Dad's gone, left a note saying he's fixing things. What's happening? Another text followed immediately. Vivian just posted something weird on social media about reuniting the family. She tagged someone named Claire Mitchell. Claire Mitchell. The name hit me like a thunderbolt. I pulled up social media and found her profile. The resemblance was uncanny, like looking in a mirror, but with different clothes, different hair, different life. My twin. Eleanor tried to stop them, Sophie continued. That's why they cut her out of your lives. She threatened to expose everything, so they threatened to take both of you away completely if she didn't stay quiet. But why? The question came out as barely more than a whisper. Why separate us? Money? Sophie's voice hardened. Your mother's family fortune. It could only be inherited by her children after they turned 25. If there was only one heir, that person's legal guardian would control the money until then. 25. We were 24 now, less than 6 months away from... My phone rang. Unknown number. Hello, sister. The voice was mine, but not mine. Familiar yet strange. I suppose you've figured it out by now. Mother's money, father's lies, Vivian's little game of raising me as her own. Claire. The name felt foreign on my tongue. We should meet, compare notes about our separate lives, share stories about how they manipulated us. Her laugh was bitter, sharp. Vivian's been quite enlightening since she showed up at my door this morning. Where's Dad going? I demanded. What's he trying to fix? Haven't you guessed? He's racing to Mother's bedside. Yes, she's still alive. Barely. Terminal cancer. Eleanor's been caring for her all these years in secret. Rather poetic that both our mothers are dying at the same time, isn't it? The ground seemed to sway beneath my feet. Both? Oh, Claire's voice dripped false sympathy. Didn't you know about Eleanor? Stage 4. She's been holding on just long enough to set this all in motion, to bring everything into the light before both our mothers take their secrets to the grave. Sophie grabbed my arm as I swayed. Kylie, tick-tock, sister dear, Claire continued. 2 dying mothers, 2 desperate fathers, and 15 years of lies unraveling. Shall we meet and compare notes, or should we let them all keep playing their games until it's too late? I looked at Sophie, at the photos, at Claire's face on my phone screen, my face but hardened by a different kind of pain, a different kind of betrayal. Where? I asked. Where it all began, of course. Claire's smile was audible. The cabin in the last photo. Tonight. Bring your half of the truth, and I'll bring mine. Let's see what kind of story we can piece together. The line went dead, leaving me with a choice. Chase Dad to the hospital, or meet my twin at the cabin where our family's web of lies first began to spin. The cabin's porch light flickered as I pulled up, casting uncertain shadows across Claire's face. My face. She stood perfectly still, watching me park, and I understood why people always said I was unnerving when angry. We had the same cold stare. Vivian's inside, she said as I approached, making tea like this is some kind of normal family reunion. A text lit up my phone. Liam again. At the hospital with Eleanor. She's asking for you. Where are you? I silenced the phone. Did you bring them? Claire pulled out a stack of letters. Mother's correspondence with Eleanor over the years. Quite the bedtime reading. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Your turn. I handed over the bank statements I'd photographed. We traded evidence like kids trading baseball cards, each desperate to complete our collection of family betrayals. Well, Claire rifled through the papers. Looks like Daddy Dearest was playing both sides, sending money to Mother through Eleanor while building his new life with Vivian. And your half, I asked. Even better. Vivian knew about Mother being alive the whole time. She used it to blackmail Dad into the marriage. She wanted a ready-made family, and she got one, plus a backup daughter in case the first one proved difficult. The porch light buzzed, then steadied. Through the cabin window, I could see Vivian moving around the kitchen, her movements precise and controlled like always. She's not what you think, Claire said, watching my expression. Or maybe she is. Depends which version of Vivian you got, the smothering mother or the cruel stepmother. Why did you really call me here? Because in exactly 6 months we turn 25. Mother's fortune splits between us, unless one of us isn't around to claim it. She let that hang in the air. Vivian's been quite chatty about contingency plans. My phone buzzed again. A text from Sophie. Eleanor says don't trust anyone, not even me. Something about the inheritance being more complicated than we thought. Shall we? Claire gestured to the door. Vivian's waiting with her tea, and her tales about how she was just trying to protect us all these years. And you believe her? I believe she's terrified of losing control. Just like Dad, just like Eleanor, with her deathbed manipulations. Claire's smile turned sharp. The question is, what are we going to do about it? Inside, Vivian had arranged everything perfectly. 3 cups, 3 saucers, 3 small cookies on bone china plates. Her hands shook slightly as she poured. "My girls," she said softly, "finally together." "Save it," Claire and I said simultaneously, then shared a look of mutual disgust at our synchronicity. "You don't understand." Vivian set down the teapot carefully. "Your mother, she wasn't well after you were born. Postpartum psychosis. She wanted to..." She stopped, swallowed. "Mark and I were protecting you." "By separating us?" I demanded. "By lying about her death?" "By giving you both a chance at a normal life." Vivian's voice hardened. "But Eleanor never accepted that. She kept interfering, kept sending money to your mother's treatments, kept threatening to tell you both everything." My phone buzzed one final time. A photo from Liam, Eleanor in her hospital bed, looking frail but determined, holding up a handwritten note. "The cabin is a trap. Vivian knows about the real Will." "Don't," Claire said sharply as I reached for my phone. "Whatever it is, it can wait. We need to finish this." Vivian's tea sat untouched, steam rising like accusations. Outside, a car crunched on gravel, headlights sweeping across the windows. "Right on time," Claire murmured. "Who did you call?" I demanded, but Claire just smiled, that same cold smile I'd seen in my mirror countless times. "Everyone," she said simply. "Dad, Eleanor's lawyer, the police. Let's have it all out in the open, shall we? Every lie, every manipulation, every secret about what really happened the night they separated us." Vivian's teacup clattered against its saucer. "Claire, we agreed. We agreed to nothing," Claire cut her off. "You raised me to be exactly like you, remember? Calculating, patient, willing to do whatever it takes to win." She turned to me. "The question is, dear sister, which one of us did they raise better, and which one of us deserves to survive this night?" The headlights outside went dark, car doors slammed, and I realized, with sudden clarity, that I wasn't the only one seeking revenge in this cabin full of mirrors and lies. Dad burst through the cabin door first, followed by Eleanor's lawyer, a thin man clutching a leather briefcase like a shield. The sight of Claire and me together made Dad stumble, his practiced charm cracking completely. "My God," he whispered. "Quite the family resemblance, isn't it?" Claire's voice dripped acid. "Though I got Vivian's ruthlessness while Kylie here got Mother's moral compass. Pity, really." Vivian stood, smoothing her skirt. "Mark, I can explain. The real Will," I interrupted, holding up my phone with Eleanor's warning. "What's in it?" The lawyer cleared his throat. "Perhaps we should..." "Tell them," Eleanor's voice carried from the doorway. She stood there, supported by Liam, looking frail but fierce. "Tell them what you've been hiding, Mark, about Sarah's condition for the inheritance." Dad's face went ash grey. "Mother, you need to be in the hospital. Sarah's condition," Eleanor continued, her voice strengthening, "was that her fortune would go to whichever daughter chose to care for her in her final days. Not split between them, not controlled by guardians. One choice, one heir." The silence that followed felt like glass about to shatter. "That's why they separated us," Claire said softly, "so neither of us could make that choice." "But now Mother's dying," I added, the pieces clicking into place. "And we're almost 25. And Vivian made sure I found out first." Claire's smile turned vicious. "Gave me a head start to the cabin where Mother's been hiding all these years. Didn't you, Vivian?" Vivian's hands trembled around her teacup. "I was protecting you both." "You were protecting yourself," Eleanor cut in. "Because if the girls found Sarah, they'd learn about your role in their separation, about the threats you made to keep me quiet, about the money you've been stealing from Sarah's care fund." The lawyer opened his briefcase, pulling out documents. "Mrs. Bennett, you should know that the police are..." A gunshot cracked through the cabin. The lawyer dropped his briefcase, papers scattering like startled birds. Claire held a small pistol, smoke curling from the barrel. "That was a warning," she said calmly. "The next one won't be aimed at the ceiling." "Claire," Dad stepped forward, hands raised. "Whatever Vivian told you, she told me everything. About Mother's illness, about how you chose Vivian over your own wife, about the night you helped fake Mother's death because it was easier than dealing with her depression." Claire's hand stayed steady on the gun. "But mostly she told me about the money. All that lovely money, just waiting for one worthy daughter." My phone buzzed one final time. A text from Sophie. "Sarah's gone. Eleanor just got the call. I'm so sorry." "Too late," I whispered, showing Claire the message. "We're too late." Claire laughed, a broken sound that mirrored the fractures in our family. "No, sister dear, we're right on time, because now there's no choice to make, no mother to care for, just an inheritance up for grabs, and a cabin full of people who've lied to us our entire lives." "Claire, please." Vivian stepped forward. "I raised you. You used me," Claire's voice cracked. "Just like you used Kylie. Just like you used everyone. And now—" She swung the gun toward Vivian. I moved without thinking, knocking Claire's arm up as the second shot rang out. The bullet splintered wood somewhere above us. We grappled for the gun, mirror images locked in combat, while our family watched in horror. "Stop!" Eleanor's voice cracked like a whip. "Sarah's last letter. Show them, Mark. Show them what this fortune has really cost us all." Dad reached into his jacket with shaking hands, pulling out the worn envelope I'd seen at my apartment, the one that had disappeared. "Your mother knew," he said quietly. "She knew what the money would do to our family. That's why she wrote this. To warn us. To stop exactly this from happening." Claire's grip on the gun loosened just enough. I wrenched it away, stepping back as she laughed again. That same broken sound that could have been mine under different circumstances. "Read it," Claire demanded. "Read what Mother knew about the monsters we'd become." I held the gun on her as Dad opened the envelope, his hands shaking so badly he could barely unfold the paper. The cabin fell silent, except for Eleanor's labored breathing and the sound of ancient paper crackling, a letter from the dead about to judge the living. Mom's handwriting flowed across the yellowed page, steady and sure. "My dearest daughters, if you're reading this, then the money has already poisoned our family beyond recognition." Claire's laugh caught in her throat. I kept the gun trained on her, but my hand trembled. "The fortune was never meant to divide you," Dad read, his voice cracking. "It was meant to bring you together. The clause about choosing one heir, it was a test. I knew what greed could do to people. I'd seen it destroy my own family." "Skip to the end," Vivian snapped, but Eleanor raised a withered hand. "Let him finish. The real inheritance," Dad continued, "isn't money at all. It's the truth. About who you are. About why I had to leave. About the choice I made the night everything changed." He looked up, tears streaming down his face. "Sarah knew. She knew what Vivian and I were planning. She wrote this the night before we separated you. The night you drugged her and declared her mentally unfit," Eleanor said quietly. "The night you stole her children and her dignity, all because you couldn't handle her postpartum depression." Claire lunged for the letter. I blocked her, but she wasn't reaching for the gun. She was reaching for Dad. Her fingers closed around his throat. "You killed her," she snarled. "Not literally, but you killed everything she was. Everything we could have been." "Claire," Vivian stepped forward. "I raised you better than—" "You raised me to be a weapon," Claire spun toward her, releasing Dad. "Someone who could hurt Kylie when the time came. Someone who could eliminate the competition for the inheritance. Well, congratulations. Here's your perfect daughter, ready to kill for money she doesn't even want anymore." The gun felt heavy in my hand. "What do you mean, doesn't want? Because it was never about the money, was it?" Claire's voice broke. "It was about them. About making them feel what we felt, lost, betrayed, broken." Eleanor moved forward, each step clearly painful. "Sarah knew this would happen. That's why she left something else. Something only I knew about." She pulled an envelope from her pocket, newer, crisp. The real will, the one she wrote after she recovered, after she rebuilt her life in secret. The one that leaves everything to charity unless… Unless what? Vivian demanded. Unless her daughters choose each other over the money. Eleanor's eyes met mine. Unless they prove they're better than the greed that destroyed their family. A sound escaped Claire, half laugh, half sob. That's why you brought us here, all of us, so we could choose… Choose to be sisters, I finished, or choose to be enemies. The gun lowered slowly between us. Claire stared at it, then at me, then at the letter still trembling in Dad's hands. She recovered, Claire whispered. She got better, and they still kept us apart. They still lost, Eleanor cut in. Because here you are, together at last. The question is, what will you do with that truth? Vivian moved suddenly, reaching for something in her purse. I raised the gun again, but Claire was faster. She knocked Vivian's hand away, sending a second gun skittering across the floor. Always have a backup plan, Claire said bitterly. Isn't that what you taught me, Mother? The cabin fell silent except for Eleanor's labored breathing and the sound of sirens in the distance. Someone had called the police after the gunshot. Choose, Eleanor said simply. Claire looked at me, really looked at me, for the first time since I'd arrived. I saw myself reflected in her eyes, all the pain, all the anger, all the years of manipulation and lies. But I saw something else too, something that looked like hope. I set the gun down on the table between us. I choose my sister, I said quietly. Claire's hands shook as she reached for the gun, not to take it, but to slide it further away. I choose mine. Eleanor smiled, tears in her eyes, as she opened the final envelope. Then let me show you what your mother really left you. Not money, not revenge, but something far more valuable. The sirens grew closer as Eleanor began to read, her voice steady despite her illness. And as the truth finally emerged, I realized Mum had known all along what would heal our broken family. Not wealth, not vengeance, but the simple, devastating power of choosing love over hate. Eleanor's funeral was small, just me, Claire, Liam, and Sophie. Dad didn't come, neither did Vivian, who was awaiting trial for financial fraud and attempted assault. The autumn wind scattered leaves across Eleanor's fresh grave, each one a secret finally laid to rest. She left us one last letter, Claire said, pulling an envelope from her coat. Said we should read it together after. I touched the headstone, tracing Eleanor's name. Next to it stood our mother's marker. Empty all these years, now finally bearing witness to truth. Sarah Mitchell had died 3 days after Eleanor, as if waiting just long enough to know her daughters had chosen right. Read it, Liam said quietly. He'd been staying with me since everything happened, learning to navigate this new reality where his sisters were twins and his parents were strangers. Claire's hands shook slightly as she opened the envelope. My dear granddaughters, if you're reading this, you've already made the choice your mother hoped you would. But there's one last secret I've kept. She stopped, color draining from her face. What is it? I asked. The fortune isn't gone, Claire whispered. Eleanor transferred it all into a new trust, one that only activates if we work together. She writes, the money was never the poison, it was the greed it inspired. Now it's yours to use differently, to heal instead of hurt, to build instead of break. Sophie touched my shoulder gently. What will you do? I looked at Claire, my mirror, my opposite, my sister. We'd spent the past week learning each other, discovering how the same wounds had scarred us differently. Her anger had turned outward, mine inward. Her revenge had been loud, mine quiet. But we'd both been searching for the same thing, connection. There's a women's shelter downtown, I said slowly. They help mothers dealing with postpartum depression, like Mom. Claire nodded. And a legal fund for families torn apart by custody battles, children separated from siblings. Eleanor knew, Liam said. She knew you'd choose this. A police car pulled up to the cemetery gates. Detective Morris stepped out. The same officer who'd responded to the cabin incident. She'd been surprisingly understanding about everything once Eleanor explained the full story. "They're moving Vivian to County," she called over. "Thought you should know. She's asking to talk to you both. Says she has more to tell you about the night you were separated." Claire's hand found mine, squeezing tight. "No more secrets," she said firmly. "We have the truth we need." I squeezed back, remembering Mum's final letter. "The past will echo through your lives, my daughters, but you choose which echoes to answer. The trust requires both our signatures," Claire continued. "Both our voices, both our choices, always." Like Mum wanted all along, I realized. She knew the only way to break the cycle was to force us to work together, to choose each other, over and over again. Detective Morris waited patiently by her car. Behind her, I could see Dad's familiar silhouette approaching the cemetery, hesitant, uncertain, still carrying his own echoes of guilt and grief. "Ready?" Claire asked, but she wasn't looking at the trust papers in her hand. She was looking at Dad's approaching figure, at the weight of forgiveness neither of us was quite prepared to offer. "Not yet," I answered honestly, "but we'll get there." Sophie and Liam stepped back, giving us space as we turned to face our father together. The trust papers crinkled in Claire's pocket. Not an inheritance anymore, but a responsibility. A chance to turn vengeance into healing, betrayal into growth. "Girls," Dad started, his voice breaking. "I don't expect—" "Just listen," Claire cut him off, her tone firm but not cruel. "We have something to tell you about Mom, about who she really was, and who we've chosen to become." The autumn wind picked up again, scattering more leaves across Eleanor's grave. But this time they didn't feel like secrets anymore. They felt like possibilities, scattered wide and free, waiting to take root in whatever soil we chose to plant them in. Some echoes, I was learning, don't have to hurt. Some can heal if you let them. If you choose them, again and again, until the sound of love drowns out the memory of pain.
The crystal flutes clinked with practiced precision as Father raised his glass, commanding attention from the 200 guests packed into our mansion's grand ballroom. His perfectly tailored Armani suit matched his perfectly crafted smile, both designed to hide what lurked beneath. "I'm Chelsea, and this was the moment my family's carefully constructed facade began to crack." "To Stewart Pharmaceuticals," Father announced, his voice carrying that signature authority that had closed billion-dollar deals. 25 years of saving lives, and to the next generation who will carry this legacy forward. His eyes found mine first, then shifted to my brother Ryan, who stood rigid beside me. I felt his hand trembling as he gripped his champagne glass. "Don't," I whispered, but I already knew it was too late. "I have something to say." Ryan's voice cracked through the murmuring crowd. Father's smile froze, a microscopic twitch in his left eye betraying his rage at the interruption. "I'm leaving the company." The words fell like bombs in the silent room. "I can't be part of an organization that puts profits over planet. Our manufacturing processes are destroying ecosystems, and I won't—" "That's enough." Father's voice cut through the air like a blade. "We'll discuss this privately." "No." Ryan stood straighter, his voice stronger. "I'm done with private discussions that lead nowhere. I'm joining environmental defense tomorrow. The world needs to know." The crack of Father's hand against Ryan's face echoed through the ballroom. Gasps rippled through the crowd. My Aunt Sophie's lips curved into a slight smile, while her son Tom leaned forward, drinking in the spectacle. "Security." Father's voice was deadly calm. "Please escort my son out." "Mark." Mother stepped forward, her designer dress rustling. "Please, not like this." "Be quiet, Lily." Father didn't even look at her. His eyes locked onto mine as 2 security guards led Ryan away. "Chelsea, my office. Now." I followed him through the maze of whispers and stares, past the imported marble columns and priceless art that decorated our home. The click of my heels against hardwood felt like a countdown to execution. His office door closed behind us with a soft click that somehow sounded more final than a slam. "You knew about this." It wasn't a question. "Ryan has his own mind, his own beliefs, which you encouraged." He moved behind his desk, every motion controlled. "Did you think I wouldn't notice the environmental books, the meetings with activists, The way you defended his ridiculous ideas at board meetings? They're not ridiculous. He's right about. He's a child playing at rebellion. Father's fist crashed onto his desk. And you're supposed to be the responsible one, the heir. Instead, you've been undermining everything I've built. Built on what? The words escaped before I could stop them. On buried research? On silenced whistleblowers? On reality, he snarled. On understanding that progress requires sacrifice. Your brother chose his path tonight. Now you choose yours. Either you step up and become who you were born to be, or you follow him out that door. But understand this, there's no middle ground anymore. I stared at him. This titan of industry, this pillar of society, this stranger wearing my father's face. In his eyes, I saw the truth I'd been avoiding. Love was conditional, family was business, and power was the only currency that mattered. Well, he straightened his tie, already composing himself to return to the gala. What's it going to be? I opened my mouth to answer, but my phone buzzed. A text from Ryan. I'm sorry, but I had to do it. Check your email. You need to see what I found in the Phase 3 trials. Father's eyes narrowed at my screen. Choose carefully, Chelsea. Everything you are, everything you have, it all comes from me. I looked up at him, suddenly seeing with perfect clarity the choice before me, his truth or mine. 3 days after Ryan's exile, I sat in Father's executive boardroom, surrounded by men twice my age who treated every word from his mouth like gospel. The morning sun caught the edge of my coffee cup, still untouched, while Father's presentation on quarterly projections droned on. The Phase 3 trials for Neuroxin show promising results, he announced, clicking through slides of charts and graphs. Chelsea will oversee the final stages of testing. My head snapped up. Across the table, Tom's jaw tightened, his knuckles white around his pen. Uncle Mark, he interrupted, given my experience with the previous trials, Chelsea has the necessary qualifications. Father cut him off. And more importantly, my trust. The words hung there, a calculated display of favoritism that made my skin crawl. I knew what this was, punishment for Tom's support of Ryan at the gala, Father's way of tightening the leash on us all. The meeting dragged on, but my mind kept returning to Ryan's text about those trials. The email he'd mentioned still sat unopened in my inbox, like a loaded gun I wasn't ready to handle. Chelsea, Father's voice pulled me back. The room had emptied except for us. The tech conference in San Francisco next week. I want you there. That's Tom's territory, I said carefully. He's been handling our tech partnerships for years. And now you will. He straightened his tie, a gesture I'd seen thousands of times. Tom lacks vision. The company needs someone who understands legacy. You mean someone who won't question you. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Careful, Chelsea. Don't mistake my patience for weakness. Ryan made that error. The threat was clear. I gathered my papers, but his next words stopped me cold. Oh, and have security sweep your office. Someone's been accessing confidential files about the Neuroxin trials. My pulse quickened. Worried about more environmental activists? No. He studied me. Just ensuring family loyalty remains intact. I escaped to my office, hands shaking as I finally opened Ryan's email. Attached were hundreds of documents, clinical trial results, internal memos, buried reports. My eyes caught phrases that made my stomach turn. Severe neurological complications, suppressed findings. Projected profit margins justify accelerated approval. A knock startled me. I slammed my laptop shut as Aunt Sophie sauntered in, her Hermes scarf a splash of calculated casualness. Darling, she purred. Such dedication, working through lunch. You're becoming just like your father. Was there something you needed? She perched on my desk, a move she'd perfected to assert dominance while appearing casual. Just checking on my favorite niece. That tech conference will be quite the challenge. Tom's so disappointed. I'm sure he'll survive. Oh, he will. We always do. She examined her manicure. You know, Chelsea, power is such a fickle thing. Today's heir apparent can become tomorrow's cautionary tale. Just ask your brother. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Regarding Neuroxin trials, have more evidence. Meet tonight? Sophie's eyes narrowed at my screen. I turned it face down, but her smile told me she'd caught enough to be dangerous. Well, she stood, smoothing her designer dress. I should let you get back to work. Those trials won't oversee themselves. She paused at the door. Oh, and Chelsea, do be careful with your correspondence. Walls have ears, especially in this building. After she left, I stared at the text message, my finger hovering over the reply button. The Neuroxin documents felt like they were burning through my laptop. Father's threats echoed in my head. Sophie's warning hung in the air. My phone buzzed again. Time sensitive, lives at stake, please. I thought of Ryan, somewhere out there fighting for what he believed in. Thought of Father's carefully constructed empire, built on buried secrets and broken lives. Thought of the choice he'd forced on me in his office. Taking a deep breath, I typed, "Where and when?" The response came immediately. "Tonight, 8 p.m., Pier 39, come alone. Come." I deleted the conversation, knowing I'd just stepped onto a path I couldn't retreat from. Outside my office, I heard Tom's voice speaking urgently to someone. Sophie's heels clicked down the hallway. Father's empire hummed around me, a machine fueled by power and secrets, and I was about to throw a wrench into all of it. The ring felt heavy on my finger as I stood in Father's study, my hand intertwined with Ethan's. The antique grandfather clock ticked away seconds that felt like hours. Mother perched on the edge of her chair, while Sophie lounged against Father's desk with practiced nonchalance. "A tech startup," Father said finally, rolling the words around his mouth like spoiled wine. "And what exactly does your company do, Ethan?" "We're developing sustainable energy solutions," Ethan replied, his voice steady. "Our latest project could revolutionize—" "Fascinating," Sophie cut in. "Almost as fascinating as your modest background. Public school, community college, working-class parents." "Aunt Sophie," I warned. But she continued. "I'm simply pointing out that certain adjustments might be necessary. The Stewart name carries expectations." Father stood, moving to the window that overlooked our manicured gardens. "Chelsea understands those expectations. Don't you, dear?" The weight of unspoken threats hung in the air. I thought of the Neuroxin documents, of my secret meeting at Pier 39 last night, of the whistleblower, a former researcher named David, who'd shown me evidence that could destroy everything Father had built. "Actually," I straightened my spine, "I need to tell you something else." Mother's eyes widened. She knew that tone, the same one Ryan had used before his exile. "I'm leaving Stewart Pharmaceuticals." The silence that followed was absolute. Even the grandfather clock seemed to hold its breath. "To join Ethan's company?" Tom's voice dripped with mock concern as he appeared in the doorway. "How romantic." "To start my own consultancy," I corrected, "focusing on ethical business practices and corporate responsibility." Father turned slowly from the window. "Is that so?" "Yes, and there's something else you should know about the Neuroxin trials." The crystal tumbler in Father's hand shattered against the wall, inches from my head. Mother gasped. Ethan stepped forward, but I held him back. "You ungrateful child." Father's voice was deadly quiet. "Everything I've built, everything I've sacrificed. Was it worth it?" I pulled out my phone, displaying the documents David had given me. Worth hiding the deaths, the brain damage, worth buying off the families and threatening the researchers? Sophie's perfectly maintained composure cracked. "You've been meeting with David." "You knew?" I turned to her, pieces clicking into place. "Of course you did. You all did." "Chelsea," Mother stood reaching for me. "You don't understand." "I understand perfectly." I backed away from her touch. Ryan was right about everything. "Ryan was weak," Father spat. "Just like you're being weak now. That boy has poisoned your mind with his idealistic nonsense. That boy is your son." The words exploded from me. "And Ethan is my choice, my future. If you can't accept that, then what?" Tom stepped closer, his smile razor sharp. "You'll expose the company, destroy thousands of jobs, ruin your own family?" "Family?" I laughed, the sound harsh and foreign. "Is that what we are? Because from where I'm standing, we're just pawns in his game of legacy and control." Father moved with surprising speed, grabbing my arm. "You will not throw away everything I've built for some middle-class nobody with delusions of changing the world." "Mark!" Mother's voice cracked like a whip. "Let her go." But it was Ethan who stepped between us, his presence calm but unmovable. "Take your hands off her." The room froze. Nobody had ever dared speak to Father that way in his own house. "Get out!" Father's voice trembled with rage. "Both of you. If you walk out that door, Chelsea, don't ever come back. You'll have nothing. No money, no connections, no family. I looked at Mother, saw the tears in her eyes, at Sophie's triumphant smirk, at Tom's calculating gaze, finally at Father, this stranger wearing familiar features, twisted by power and pride. I already have nothing, I said quietly, removing my family ring, because everything you gave me came with chains. I placed the ring on his desk, took Ethan's hand, and walked toward the door. Behind me, I heard Mother's soft sob, Sophie's sharp intake of breath, Tom's derisive chuckle. Chelsea, Father's voice stopped me at the threshold. If you do this, if you expose those documents, I will destroy him. His eyes fixed on Ethan. Everything he's built, everything he hopes to build, I will burn it all to the ground. I turned back one last time, meeting his gaze. Then I guess we'll burn together. Our new apartment felt impossibly small after the Stewart mansion, but watching Ethan cook dinner in our tiny kitchen, I felt something I'd never experienced in that gilded cage. Peace. Your mother called again, he said, stirring pasta sauce. Third time this week. I deleted the voicemail without listening. Any word from the investors? Meeting tomorrow. He hesitated. Tom showed up at our office today. The wooden spoon in my hand snapped. What did he want? To invest. Said he's looking to diversify his portfolio away from pharmaceuticals. Ethan's voice remained neutral, but his shoulders tensed. Mentioned some concerns about Stewart Pharma's stability. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. A news alert about Stewart Pharmaceuticals. The headline made my blood freeze. FDA launches investigation into Stewart Pharmaceuticals following multiple deaths. Chelsea? Ethan moved closer, reading over my shoulder. They rushed Neuroxin to market, I whispered, even after what David showed us about the trials. My phone exploded with messages. Mia sent links to more articles. Ryan texted from his environmental activist compound. Even Sophie, of all people, sent a cryptic, "We need to talk, urgently." A knock at our door made us both jump. Through the peephole, I saw Mother standing there, looking nothing like the polished society wife I'd grown up with. Her hair was disheveled, her designer clothes wrinkled. "Please," she said through the door. 5 minutes. Ethan squeezed my shoulder. "Your choice." I opened the door. Mother rushed in, clutching her tablet. "Have you seen the reports? Tom's been falsifying safety data, pushing through approvals without proper testing. Your father, he's not well. The board is meeting tomorrow to discuss removing him. And you came here because? Because Sophie and Tom are making their move. They're using this crisis to take control of the company." She pulled up internal emails on her tablet. "Look, they've been planning this for months. The Neuroxin scandal, the FDA investigation, they orchestrated all of it. Why should I care? I'm out. Done. Remember? Because people are dying, Chelsea." Her voice cracked. Real people. And because Tom's next target is Ethan's company. Ethan stepped forward. "The investment offer." Mother nodded. "It's a hostile takeover attempt. They'll use Stewart Pharma's remaining resources to absorb your company, then strip it for parts. They're desperate for cash after what they've done to the family business." My laugh sounded hollow. "Karma's a bitch, isn't it?" "Chelsea," Mother grabbed my hands. "I know what your father did was unforgivable, but this isn't about him anymore. Tom and Sophie will destroy everything in their path, including the good work you and Ethan are trying to do." My phone buzzed again. David, the whistleblower. "Need to meet. Have proof of Tom's involvement in patient deaths. Not safe to talk here." "I can't get involved," I said, but the words felt weak even to me. I walked away. "Did you?" Mother's eyes were shrewd. "Or are you just waiting for the right moment to strike back?" Ethan moved to the window, watching the street below. "We've got company. Black SUV, tinted windows. Been there since your mother arrived." Mother's face paled. "They followed me. I'm sorry, I didn't think—" "Who's they?" I demanded. "Tom's new security team. Ex-military. They've been watching all of us since the FDA announcement." My phone lit up with another message, this time from Ryan. "Don't trust Mom. It's a trap. Call me." I looked at Mother, really looked at her. The dishevelment seemed too perfect, the timing too convenient. "Why are you really here?" She met my gaze steadily. "Because sometimes the only way to protect what you love is to destroy what threatens it." She stood, smoothing her wrinkled clothes with suddenly steady hands. "You're not the only one who's been playing a long game, darling." The pasta sauce burned on the stove, filling our tiny apartment with acrid smoke. Outside, car doors slammed. Mother's phone chimed with a text, and for a split second, I glimpsed the sender's name, Sophie. "Choose quickly, Chelsea," Mother said, moving toward the door. "Tomorrow's board meeting will change everything. Question is, which side of history do you want to be on?" She left us standing there, the smoke alarm shrieking overhead, as multiple sets of footsteps echoed up the apartment stairs. Ethan grabbed my hand, his expression grim. "Back door?" he asked quietly. I squeezed his hand, thinking of David's evidence, Ryan's warning, Mother's subtle threat, and Tom's approaching thugs. "No." We stopped running. "It's time to fight fire with fire." The footsteps grew closer. The cream-colored invitation sat on our kitchen counter like a loaded gun. Father's 60th birthday celebration, printed in gold leaf, as if luxury could mask manipulation. I'd been staring at it for 3 days, while Ethan pretended not to notice my growing obsession. "David's dead," Mia's voice crackled through my phone. "They're calling it suicide." The coffee mug slipped from my hand, shattering against the tile. Ethan's head snapped up from his laptop. "When?" "Last night. Pills. But Chelsea, he sent me something first. Files. About Tom's involvement in the Neuroxin deaths." My hands trembled as I cleaned up the broken ceramic. "Send them to me." "Already did. But be careful. The detective mentioned surveillance footage of men entering David's apartment before—" A sharp knock interrupted her. Through our apartment's thin walls, I heard Sophie's voice. "Chelsea, we need to talk about your father's party." "I have to go," I whispered to Mia, ending the call. Ethan moved closer. We don't have to open the door, but I was already moving, anger and adrenaline propelling me forward. Sophie stood in our hallway, looking expensive and dangerous in her Chanel suit. "Darling," she air-kissed my cheek. "This little experiment in independence is charming, but it's time to come home. Your father's not well." Funny timing. I kept my voice steady. Right after David's suicide. Something flickered in her eyes. "Such a tragedy. Depression is a terrible thing." "Is that what Tom's calling it?" Her smile tightened. "I don't know what you think you know." "I know enough." I stepped closer. "About the falsified trials, the covered-up deaths, the bribes. David showed me everything before you had him killed." "Careful, Chelsea." Her voice dropped. "Accusations like that could be dangerous. For everyone." Her eyes flicked to Ethan, still watching from the kitchen. "Your father's birthday party, tomorrow night. Come alone. We'll discuss your concerns there." "Is that a threat?" "It's an opportunity to protect what matters." She pressed something into my hand, a USB drive. Preview of tomorrow's board presentation. Tom's quite proud of his plan to acquire Ethan's company. Such innovative technology. Shame if something happened to it. My fingers closed around the drive. "Get out." After she left, Ethan touched my shoulder. We could leave, start over somewhere else. They'd follow us. I plugged the drive into my laptop. Besides, I'm done running. Documents filled the screen. Acquisition plans, shell companies, evidence of corporate espionage against Ethan's firm. My phone buzzed with a text from Ryan. "Got your message. Meeting set with environmental defense lawyers tomorrow. They're ready to move on the Neuroxin evidence." Another text arrived, from Mother. "Whatever Sophie told you, don't trust it. Meet me tonight, alone." Ethan read over my shoulder. "It's a trap. Everything's a trap." I stood, pacing our small living room. "David's dead because he tried to expose them. They're coming for your company. Father's birthday party is just another power play, and I'm supposed to choose sides in their game. So don't play. That's not an option anymore." I showed him the latest news alert. Stewart Pharmaceuticals' stock plummets amid corruption allegations. "Chelsea," Ethan's voice was gentle. "Revenge won't bring David back. Or fix your family. This isn't about revenge, but even I heard the lie in my voice. It's about justice." "Is it?" He picked up Father's invitation. "Because from here, it looks like you're letting them pull you back into their world. The world you fought so hard to escape." Before I could respond, my phone lit up with an email from Tom. Subject line, "About tonight's accident." My blood ran cold as I opened the attached photo. Ethan's office building, smoke pouring from broken windows. The message read, "Electrical fire. Such a shame. Tomorrow's party would be a good time to discuss preventing future accidents." Ethan's phone started ringing. His business partner, probably reporting the damage. He answered, moving to the kitchen, his face tight with controlled anger. I stared at Father's invitation, Hearing Sophie's threats, seeing David's dead face in my mind, the USB drive hummed with dangerous secrets. My phone blinked with messages from Mother, Ryan, Mia, each pulling me in different directions, each hiding their own agenda. Tomorrow night, Father's birthday, the board presentation, environmental defense lawyers, all the pieces moving into place for a final confrontation. "I'm going," I said when Ethan returned. Alone. "Chelsea, they killed David. They're threatening you. This ends tomorrow." I picked up the invitation, feeling its weight like a death sentence. One way or another. The Stewart mansion loomed before me, its windows blazing against the twilight sky. Security guards prowled the perimeter, their earpieces glinting. Inside, Father's 60th birthday celebration was already underway. I clutched my small gift box containing a single USB drive loaded with David's evidence. My phone buzzed. Ryan's final warning. FBI raid scheduled for midnight. Get out before then. The guard at the door barely glanced at my invitation. "Miss Stewart, they're waiting in the main hall." They certainly were. Sophie materialized first, her smile sharp as broken glass. "Darling, you came alone. How brave." "Where's Father?" "Preparing his speech. Tom's with him, reviewing the board presentation for tomorrow." She touched my arm, her fingers like talons. "There's still time to choose the right side, Chelsea." I pulled away, scanning the crowd. Mother stood by the grand staircase, watching me with unreadable eyes. The room hummed with wealthy parasites, all pretending not to stare at the prodigal daughter's return. "Chelsea." Father's voice cut through the murmur. He descended the stairs, Tom hovering at his shoulder. "I wasn't sure you'd come. Happy birthday." I held out the gift box. Something to remember me by. His eyes narrowed as he opened it. The USB drive sat on black velvet, innocent-looking despite its lethal contents. "What's this?" "Everything. The neuroxin trials, David's evidence, proof of Tom's involvement in— Oh, careful." Tom stepped forward. "You wouldn't want anything unfortunate to happen to Ethan's remaining assets." "You mean like the fire you started?" Father's hand closed around the drive. "My office. Now." The study felt smaller than I remembered. Father sat behind his desk, Tom and Sophie flanking him like guard dogs. Through the window, I saw Mother in the garden, speaking urgently into her phone. "You think you can destroy everything I've built?" Father's voice was deadly quiet. "With what? A dead man's desperate accusations?" David had proof. David had theories. Tom smiled. "And a convenient drug habit. No one will believe— The FBI will." I pulled out my phone, showing them Ryan's message. "They're coming tonight, with warrants." The color drained from Father's face. Sophie grabbed the phone, reading quickly. "It's a bluff. Try me." I moved toward the door. "I should go. Let you prepare your statements for the press." "Wait," Father's voice cracked. "Please." I paused, hand on the doorknob. "What do you want?" He suddenly looked old, diminished. "Money? A position on the board? Name it." "I want justice." "Justice?" Tom laughed. "You want revenge, because we didn't bow to your little romance with the tech boy, because Daddy didn't approve, because you killed people." The words exploded from me. "Because you covered up deaths, threatened families, murdered David, and you're so innocent?" Sophie's voice dripped venom. "Show him, Tom." Tom pulled out his tablet, playing a video. My blood froze. Security footage of me meeting David at Pier 39, passing him an envelope. "Bribing a whistleblower," Tom said softly. "That's federal prison time. And look, the timestamp, the night before his unfortunate overdose." I didn't— "Of course not," Father stood. "But who will believe you? The bitter daughter, paying off employees to destroy her family's company?" My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. "David's evidence was fake. You've been played." Another message from Ryan. "Mom says get out now. It's a trap." Too late. Security filled the doorway behind me. Tom's smile widened as he held up a document. The board voted an hour ago. Emergency measures to protect the company from internal threats. He pointed to Mother's signature at the bottom. "Even your mother agreed. You're now officially classified as a hostile entity." "You can't." "We can." Father's voice was ice. "Everything you own, every account, every contact, frozen. Your little consultancy, shut down. Ethan's company, by morning it'll be under our control. And if you try to fight it," Sophie added, "that footage goes public. How long do you think Ethan will stand by you when he learns you got his friend killed? The room spun. Through the window, I saw Mother walking away, her shoulders stiff. My phone went dark, already disconnected. Happy birthday to me, Father said softly. Security will show you out. And Chelsea, don't come back, ever. I walked through the party in a daze, past whispers and stares. Outside, the night air hit like a slap. My car wouldn't start, disabled probably. In my purse, my credit cards would already be worthless. They'd taken everything. And worse, they'd made me the villain of the story. My phone had one last message from Ethan. Something's wrong. All our accounts are frozen. What's happening? I stared at the mansion, at the celebration continuing without me, and felt the last pieces of my old life crumble away. 3 days after Father's birthday party, Stewart Pharmaceuticals stock plummeted 90%. I watched it happen on Mia's laptop, since mine had been remotely wiped. The business networks buzzed with speculation about internal corruption, failed drug trials, and pending FDA investigations. They're saying Tom's gone missing, Mia said, scrolling through news alerts. Private jet to Switzerland last night. My burner phone vibrated. Ryan's latest update. Environmental defense filing charges tomorrow. FBI moving in. Get to safety. You should go, I told Mia. Being seen with me isn't safe anymore. She closed her laptop. Neither is being alone. Ethan called again. He's worried. He shouldn't be. The company transfer papers were forged. His lawyers can prove it. That's not why he's worried. Before I could respond, my phone lit up with an unknown number. Mother's voice came through, breathless. Sophie's dead. The world tilted. What? Car accident. An hour ago. Mark. He's not making sense. He's in his office with a gun. Tom's documents. Chelsea, you need to come. Now. Why should I believe you? Because I have proof. About everything. David's death, the trials, the cover-ups. I've been gathering it for months. Please. I looked at Mia, who nodded grimly. I'll drive. The Stewart mansion's gates hung open. Security nowhere in sight. Mother met us in the foyer, her designer outfit wrinkled, mascara streaked. He's destroying everything, she whispered, leading us upstairs. After Sophie's accident, he found her files. She'd been documenting it all, every illegal decision, every threat. Insurance, she called it. Against what? Against him, against Tom, against anyone who tried to take her power. Mother's hands shook as she pulled out a USB drive. Including me. Gunshots exploded from Father's study. We rushed in to find him shooting his computer screen, papers scattered everywhere. Mark! Mother screamed. He turned, eyes wild. It's gone. Everything's gone. Tom transferred it all. Every account, every asset. That ungrateful snake. Put the gun down, I said quietly. He laughed, harsh and broken. Come to watch it burn, Chelsea? Your inheritance, your legacy? This stopped being about inheritance a long time ago. Did it? He gestured at the chaos around him. Then why are you here? To gloat? To finish what your brother started? I'm here because you're still my father. Father? Another harsh laugh. I'm nothing now. Tom made sure of that. Sophie made sure of that. You made our own choices, I finished. Just like you taught us. I taught you loyalty. You taught us power, I corrected. At any cost. Well, this is the cost. Mother stepped forward, holding up Sophie's USB drive. Mark, there's something you need to see. More betrayal? He raised the gun. Truth, she said firmly. About Sophie, about Tom, about why David really died. His hand wavered. What are you talking about? Sophie didn't have an accident, Mother's voice cracked. Tom arranged it, just like he arranged David's death, just like he's arranged everything since Chelsea left. The gun clattered to the desk. Father collapsed into his chair, suddenly looking ancient. Why? Because you taught him too well, I said softly. Power at any cost, remember? Mother plugged in the drive, pulling up documents. Tom's been embezzling for years. Sophie found out, threatened to expose him, so he eliminated the threat, just like he tried to do with Chelsea. Father stared at the screen, at the evidence of his legacy's true cost. Outside, sirens wailed in the distance. They're coming, Mother said quietly. FBI, SEC, everyone. Tom's gone, but they'll want someone to blame. Father picked up the gun again, his hand steady now. I built this empire, And now you can choose how it ends, I said. Running like Tom or facing it like a Stewart. He looked at me for a long moment. When did you become so strong? When you forced me to choose between power and principle. The sirens grew closer. Father stood, straightening his tie one last time. Lily, call our lawyers. Chelsea, he hesitated. Take care of your brother, and that boy of yours. What are you going to do? He smiled sadly. What I should have done years ago. Protect my family. As FBI vehicles swarmed the driveway, Father walked calmly downstairs to meet them, leaving his empire of shadows behind. Mother touched my arm. It's over. But watching Father surrender, I realized it wasn't over. It was just changing shape, like all inherited sins do. The true cost of power was still being tallied, and somewhere in Switzerland, Tom was plotting his own revenge. Some legacies never die. They just wait for the next generation to claim them. The Stewart Mansion's auction drew a smaller crowd than expected. I watched from the garden as strangers picked through the remains of our legacy. Antique furniture, rare art, generations of carefully curated wealth reduced to lot numbers and bid cards. Mother appeared beside me, her designer clothes replaced by simple business wear. The prosecutors offered your father a deal this morning. And? He refused, said the truth matters more than freedom now. She handed me an envelope. He wanted you to have this. Inside was a single sheet of Stewart Pharmaceuticals letterhead, bearing Father's precise handwriting. I was wrong about power. It's not what we take. It's what we leave behind. The garden path crunched with approaching footsteps. Ryan, looking oddly formal in a suit, stopped short when he saw us. The environmental defense team is ready, he said quietly. They need your final statement. Mother squeezed my hand before walking away, leaving us alone among the roses she'd tended for decades. Tom's been spotted in Geneva, Ryan continued. Interpol's closing in. Let them have him. I folded Father's note carefully. We have more important work to do. Inside, the auction reached our father's prized art collection. Through the window, I watched Ethan examining the accounting ledgers with federal investigators, his integrity unchanged by the chaos around him. My phone buzzed. Mia, with news about the victims' compensation fund we'd established. The Neuroxin families would receive their first payments tomorrow. Not enough to heal their losses, but a start toward justice. Chelsea. Mother's voice drew me back. She held out a small box. I should have given you this sooner. Inside lay her grandmother's ring, the one she'd worn every day of her marriage. I can't. You can. Because you understand what I never did. Power isn't in the wearing of it. It's in the choosing. The auction hammer fell on the last lot. In the driveway, reporters gathered for Father's final press conference, where he would confess to everything. Not for immunity or mercy, but because truth had become his last remaining currency. Ethan joined us, his face grim. They found Sophie's complete records. The board manipulation, the threats against David, everything. It goes back decades. And now it ends, I said firmly. Does it? Ryan gestured at the mansion. Empires don't die quietly, Chelsea. They leave echoes. As if proving his point, my phone lit up with an anonymous text. Greetings from Geneva. Family business isn't finished. T. I deleted it without responding. Tom's threats felt hollow now, like the mansion itself. All facade, no foundation. Mother touched the empty flower beds she'd never plant again. What will you do now? The question hung between us, heavy with unspoken weight. The compensation fund needed management. Father's confession would trigger more investigations. Somewhere in Switzerland, Tom plotted his revenge. But watching Ethan coordinate with the victims' lawyers, seeing Ryan's passionate work with environmental defense, feeling Mother's quiet strength beside me, I realized the answer had been there all along. We rebuild, I said simply. Not empires or legacies, something better. The Stewart name isn't who we are anymore. I touched her grandmother's ring, feeling its weight. We're something new now. The auction crowd dispersed, leaving the mansion echoing with footsteps of departing strangers. Soon it would become something else. A museum, a school, a monument to power's cost. Father's note crinkled in my pocket as I took one last walk through the garden. The roses would bloom for new owners now. The paths would carry different feet. The legacy would fade like all things do. But standing there, watching Mother embrace Ryan, seeing Ethan's unwavering support, I understood Father's final lesson. Power wasn't in what we built or broke or avenged. It was in what we chose to grow instead. I left the garden gate open behind me, letting the past flow out like tide water. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Tom's threats, Father's trial, the endless work of making amends. But for now, this was enough. The truth unveiled, justice begun, and family redefined not by blood or legacy, but by the choices we made in power's wake. Some would call it karma, others, justice. But as I walked away from the Stewart mansion one last time, I called it something simpler: freedom.
I never expected to fall in love at a house party. The music pulsed through the floorboards, and someone's expensive bourbon burned down my throat as I watched him from across the room. Ryan. Even his name felt different on my tongue when I first said it, like tasting something exotic and dangerous. "You're the only person here who looks as uncomfortable as I feel," he said, sliding onto the bar stool next to me. His smile had this way of making the chaos around us fade into white noise. "I'm Layla, and this is the story of how I destroyed the people who tried to destroy me." That night, the party swirled around us like we were caught in the eye of a hurricane. Ryan talked about his work in graphic design, his dreams of starting his own agency, how corporate life was slowly killing his creativity. I found myself leaning closer, drawn in by the passion in his voice, the way his hands moved when he spoke about art. "What about you?" he asked, refilling my glass without asking. "What drives you crazy enough to hide at the bar during the party of the year?" "Numbers," I said. "I'm an accountant. We're naturally antisocial." He laughed, and something inside me shifted. "I doubt that. You're just waiting for the right company." 3 hours later, we were sitting on the front steps, sharing a cigarette neither of us usually smoked. The summer air wrapped around us like a blanket, and I felt drunk on possibility more than alcohol. "My father would hate you," he said suddenly, studying my profile. "Is that a good thing?" "The best thing." He turned to face me fully. "Want to really piss him off?" I should have seen it then. The flash of something desperate in his eyes, the way he said father, like it was a curse word. But I was too busy falling. "How?" "Have dinner with me tomorrow. And the next day. And maybe every day after that until we figure out if this is as real as it feels." I said yes. Of course I said yes. That's how these stories always start, with a yes that should have been a no. The next few months were a blur of late-night conversations, shared dreams, and the kind of love that makes you forget who you were before it. Ryan proposed on a random Tuesday. No fancy restaurant, no rehearsed speech, just the two of us in his apartment eating takeout Chinese food. "Marry me," he said, between bites of Kung Pao chicken. "My parents will lose their minds, and I'll get to wake up to your face every morning. Win-win." I laughed, thinking he was joking. He wasn't. "I'm serious, Layla. Marry me. Be my escape plan." There it was again, that desperate edge I chose to ignore. I was too caught up in the romance of it all, the rebellious thrill of a spontaneous engagement. "Yes," I whispered, and his kiss tasted like sweet and sour sauce and promises. The first time I met his parents, Victor and Linda, they were perfectly pleasant. Too perfect. Linda hugged me like I was already family, while Victor's handshake lasted a fraction too long, his eyes assessing me like I was a business proposition. "An accountant," he said, rolling the word around his mouth like expensive wine. "How practical." "We're very proud of Ryan finding someone so responsible," Linda added, her smile never quite reaching her eyes. That dinner was the beginning of the end, though I didn't know it then. Every smile held a hidden agenda. Every compliment carried a price tag I would later have to pay. My father tried to warn me when I told him about the engagement. "Sometimes when things move too fast," he said, "it's because someone's running from something, or towards something they shouldn't." I dismissed his concerns. Thomas was always too cautious, too analytical. What did he know about passion, about the kind of love that makes you want to rebuild your whole world around another person? Now, standing in the cemetery 6 months later, watching them lower my father's casket into the ground, I finally understand what he meant. And I know exactly what I have to do about it. Moving in with Ryan happened faster than I could process the change. One minute I was boxing up my apartment, the next I was arranging my coffee mugs in our kitchen while his mother rearranged them behind my back. The handles should all face right, Linda said, her perfectly manicured nails clicking against ceramic. It's more efficient that way. Ryan's always been particular about organization. I bit back a laugh, thinking of Ryan's chaos of a desk at work, his scattered approach to everything except his art. But I said nothing, just watched her methodically turn each mug exactly 45 degrees. "We're so pleased you're joining the family," she continued, her voice honey-sweet. "Victor and I were worried Ryan would never settle down with someone suitable." The pause before suitable stretched just long enough to make my skin prickle. That evening, Victor and Linda insisted on hosting a housewarming dinner. I found myself seated at their formal dining table, surrounded by heavy silverware and weighted expectations. "Ryan tells me you're quite successful at your firm," Victor said, cutting into his steak with surgical precision. "Senior accountant at 28? Impressive." "Thank you. Though I always thought Ryan would end up with someone more creative, like himself." Linda's smile didn't waver as she twisted the knife. "But I suppose opposites attract." Ryan's hand found mine under the table, squeezing gently. But he said nothing to defend me, just reached for his wine glass with his free hand. "Actually," Victor leaned forward, "we might have an opportunity for your expertise, Layla. Our family's investment portfolio could use a fresh perspective." "Dad," Ryan started, but Victor waved him off. "Nothing major, son. Just some advice. Family helping family." He fixed me with a stare that reminded me of sharks I'd seen at the aquarium. That's what we're all about. Later that night, I found Ryan in his home office, staring at his computer screen without really seeing it. "Your parents seem invested in our relationship," I said carefully. "They mean well." His voice was tight. "They just want what's best for us." "And what do you want?" He finally looked at me, and for a moment I saw something like fear flash across his face. "I want..." He stood abruptly, pulling me into an embrace that felt more like escape than affection. "I want us to be happy, that's all." The next morning, I discovered Linda had let herself in while we were sleeping. She was in our kitchen, replacing our groceries with organic alternatives. "Oh, don't mind me," she chirped, tossing out my favorite coffee. "Just helping you get settled properly. Ryan has such sensitive digestion. Didn't he tell you?" He didn't, because he doesn't. I'd watched him devour street tacos and gas station sushi without consequence. But again, I said nothing. That became our pattern over the next few weeks. Victor and Linda appearing unannounced, making small changes, offering unsolicited advice wrapped in concern. Each time, Ryan would tense up but stay silent, leaving me to navigate their subtle manipulations alone. Then came the first financial favor. "It's just a small loan," Victor explained over Sunday brunch. "The country club's raising their annual fees, and with Linda's medical expenses this year." He trailed off, looking meaningfully at Ryan. "Medical expenses?" I asked, not remembering Linda mentioning any health issues. "Nothing serious," Linda jumped in, touching her throat dramatically. "Just some routine procedures. We'd ask Ryan, but with his creative career being so unstable." I felt Ryan shrink beside me, his shoulders hunching slightly. Before I could stop myself, I heard my voice say, "Of course we'll help. Family helps family, right?" Victor's smile was all teeth. "Exactly. We'll have the paperwork drawn up tomorrow." That night, I lay awake, listening to Ryan's steady breathing beside me. On my nightstand, my phone lit up with a text from my father. "Everything okay? You've seemed distant lately." I started to type, "I'm fine," but deleted it. Instead, I wrote, "Can we meet for coffee this week? Just us?" His response came immediately. "Name the time and place." As I set my phone down, Linda's voice echoed in my head. Family helps family. But whose family was I really helping? And at what cost? I rolled over, studying Ryan's profile in the darkness. He looked younger when he slept, more like the man I met at that party and less like the son who couldn't say no to his parents. I wondered if he knew what he was running from that night, or what he was running me toward. The spreadsheet on my laptop screen blurred as I stared at the numbers for the 10th time. 6 months of small loans to Victor and Linda had quietly ballooned into a sum that made my stomach clench. Each transaction came with a story. Linda's mysterious medical bills, Victor's business venture losses, emergency home repairs that somehow never showed visible results. My coffee had gone cold when my phone buzzed. Another text from Linda. Darling, we simply must discuss the Christmas fund. The country club's charity gala needs our support. I closed my eyes, remembering last month's emergency when Victor claimed their investment group needed a quick cash injection. Ryan had nodded along, eyes fixed on his plate, while I wrote another check. The front door clicked open. Ryan's footsteps, then Linda's voice. My head snapped up. She was here in our house again. Mother thought she'd help me pick out a new suit for the firm's portfolio presentation, Ryan said, not quite meeting my eyes. We brought dinner. From that lovely French place, Linda added. Much better than that takeout you two always order. I stood up, closing my laptop. Ryan, could we talk privately for a moment? In our bedroom, I pulled up the spreadsheet on my phone. Have you seen these numbers? He glanced at the screen, then away. They're just temporary setbacks. Dad's investments will pay off soon. Like the last 3 were supposed to? My voice cracked. Ryan, we're hemorrhaging money. Your parents don't. His face hardened. Their family, they've supported me through everything. They're supporting themselves through us, I shot back. And you're letting them. A knock at the door made us both jump. Linda's voice drifted through. Everything all right in there? The soup's getting cold. Ryan's shoulders slumped. Coming, Mother. He turned to me, his voice barely a whisper. Please, Layla, just keep the peace. At dinner, Victor called. Linda put him on speakerphone, his voice filling our dining room like smoke. Wonderful news, he announced. The investment group has an incredible opportunity. Time-sensitive, of course. We just need… No. The word escaped before I could stop it. Silence fell like a blade. I beg your pardon? Victor's voice went arctic. We can't. I forced myself to look at Linda's shocked face. We've already given so much. Given? Linda's laugh could have frosted glass. My dear, we're family. There's no giving or taking in family. There's only supporting each other. Then where's your support? The words tumbled out. Where's the money from the last 3 investments? The medical bills we never saw? The home repairs that… Layla! Ryan's voice held a warning. I opened my laptop, turned it toward them. Look at the numbers. Really look. Linda's face transformed, her mask slipping for just a moment to reveal something calculating beneath. Ryan, darling, your wife seems… stressed. Perhaps she's working too hard. I'm not… We understand, Linda cut in smoothly. First year of marriage is always an adjustment. Learning to put family first can be challenging for some people. Ryan sat silent, staring at his untouched soup. Your father and I only want what's best for both of you, Linda continued. Speaking of which, Ryan, remember that creative director position Victor mentioned, the one at his friend's agency? I watched my husband's spine straighten, interest flickering in his eyes. The hook, the bait, the trap, all laid out so perfectly. It would be such a shame if anything got in the way of that opportunity, Linda mused, her eyes fixed on me. Later that night, I sat alone in our darkened kitchen, my father's words from our coffee meeting echoing in my head. Sometimes the people closest to us can't see the cage they're in because they helped build it. My phone lit up with a text from my Aunt Karen. You okay, honey? You seemed off at Sunday dinner. Before I could respond, another message appeared, from Victor this time. Documentation for the new investment opportunity attached. Time sensitive. Family comes first. I opened my spreadsheet again, adding a new column. But this time, instead of tracking what they'd taken, I started calculating what it would cost to make them pay it all back. In our bedroom, Ryan slept soundly, unaware that beside him, his wife was finally waking up. The email from the bank arrived at 3:47 a.m. I'd been awake anyway, running numbers through my head like counting sheep, when my phone lit up the darkness. The subject line stopped my breath. Unauthorized account activity alert. Someone had drained our savings account. Every penny we'd set aside, gone in a single transfer. The timestamp showed it happened just hours after I'd refused Victor's latest investment scheme. My hands shook as I dialed Ryan's office number. It was early, but he'd mentioned working late on a project. 3 rings, then his voicemail. I tried his cell. Straight to voicemail. "Everything all right, dear?" Linda's voice floated through our bedroom door. She wasn't supposed to be here. Why was she here? I closed my laptop, tucking it under the bed before opening the door. Linda stood there in her designer suit, perfect makeup at 4 in the morning, holding a steaming mug of coffee. "Ryan called," she said, extending the mug. "He's staying at our house tonight. The creative director position? They needed him to start immediately on a test project." I didn't take the coffee. "The savings account is empty." "Oh?" Her eyebrows lifted with practiced concern. "How dreadful. Though perhaps this is a sign you should let Victor handle the family finances. He has so much more experience." The pieces clicked together like a lock tumbling open. "Ryan gave you the account passwords, didn't he?" "Family takes care of family," she said, her smile never wavering. "Sometimes that means protecting people from their own limited perspective." My phone buzzed, a text from Ryan. "It's for the best. Trust them. Trust me." I deleted the message without responding. "Get out of my house." "Our house, dear. The deed's in Ryan's name, remember?" Linda set the coffee down, her movements precise and deliberate. "Victor thought it best, given your emotional approach to money." I grabbed my keys and laptop, pushing past her. She caught my arm, her manicured nails digging in. "Think carefully about your next move," she said softly. "Ryan's new position? It depends entirely on family harmony." I yanked free, nearly running to my car. As I pulled away, I saw Linda in my rearview mirror, phone to her ear, that perfect smile still in place. My Aunt Karen's house was only 20 minutes away, but my hands trembled so badly I had to pull over twice. When I finally reached her driveway, she was already on the porch in her robe, arms crossed against the pre-dawn chill. "Your father called," she said as I stumbled out of the car. "He's been trying to reach you." "My phone's been..." I started, but she cut me off. "There's something you need to know about Victor and Linda." She led me inside to her home office. "Thomas has been investigating them for months." She pulled out a thick file. "Your father may seem distant, but he notices things. After your wedding, he started digging." "Victor's investment group?" "It doesn't exist. Neither do Linda's medical bills. They've done this before. To Ryan's previous fiancé." My stomach lurched. "Previous? She disappeared 3 years ago. Left Ryan at the altar, supposedly, but your father found something." Karen hesitated. The timing of her departure coincided with a massive transfer from her accounts to an offshore holding company. Victor's company. I sank into a chair, remembering Linda's words. "Family takes care of family." "There's more," Karen said quietly. "Thomas was planning to confront them tomorrow. He has evidence of at least 4 other cases, all young professionals, all married to people connected to Victor's social circle, all financially drained and discredited within a year of marriage." My phone buzzed again. Victor this time. "Family meeting, 7 p.m., attendance mandatory." Karen read the message over my shoulder. "You can't go back there." "No," I said, something cold and clear crystallizing in my chest. "I have to, but first I need everything in that file." "Layla." "They took everything from me," I said, surprised by how steady my voice sounded. "Now I'm going to return the favor." As the sun rose, I started reading, making notes, building a plan. They thought they were destroying me. Instead, they were creating something far more dangerous. Someone with nothing left to lose. Karen's call came at midnight. Her voice cracked as she spoke. "Layla, it's your father. There's been an accident." The hospital corridor stretched endlessly before me, fluorescent lights burning my eyes. I found Karen outside the ICU, clutching her phone like a lifeline. "They're saying it was a brake failure," she whispered. "He was driving home from a meeting with his lawyer." My blood turned to ice. "What meeting?" "About Victor's case. He was going to file tomorrow." She pressed a USB drive into my palm. "He wanted you to have this. Said if anything happened, don't." I closed my fingers around the drive. "He'll tell me himself when he wakes up." The doctor's face told a different story. Words like extensive internal bleeding and critical condition floated past me. I stood at my father's bedside, watching machines breathe for the man who'd always been my foundation. My phone buzzed. Linda. Terrible news about Thomas. We're all praying for him. Family dinner still on for tomorrow? I switched off my phone and plugged in the USB drive at the nurse's station computer. Files upon files appeared. Financial records, photographs, sworn statements from Victor's previous victims. At the bottom, a video file. For Layla. My father's face filled the screen, recorded just hours before the accident. If you're watching this, something's happened to me. Victor's operation goes deeper than we thought. The others weren't just scammed, they were systematically destroyed. Careers ruined, reputations shattered. The money was never the point. It's about power, about breaking people who might threaten his control. A nurse touched my shoulder, making me jump. He's asking for you. I rushed back to find my father conscious, struggling to speak through his oxygen mask. His fingers trembled as they found mine. The safe, he whispered. Home office, code, your birthday. Dad, save your strength. Promise. His grip tightened. Promise you'll be smarter than me. Don't let them see you coming. The monitors screamed before I could answer. Medical staff flooded the room, pushing me out. Through the chaos, I heard Karen crying. I drove to my father's house in a daze, the USB drive burning a hole in my pocket. The home office still smelled like his cologne. The safe opened with a soft click. Inside, more files, a gun I never knew he owned, and a letter addressed to me. My phone came back to life with missed calls from Ryan. I answered on the final ring. Where are you? His voice held an edge I'd never heard before. Mom and Dad are worried. My father is dying. I know. I'm sorry. But... He paused. Dad needs to talk to you. About the accounts. Which ones? I kept my voice steady. The real ones, or the offshore ones, where he hides the money he steals? Silence stretched between us. Finally, come home, Layla. We can fix this. Like you fixed your last fiancé's life? Another pause. Who told you about Sarah? My father did. Right before your parents had his brakes cut. That's crazy. You're not thinking clearly. Ryan's voice softened to the tone he used when we first met. Come home. Let us help you through this. I looked at the gun in the safe, then at my father's letter. Okay, I said. You're right. I'll be there soon. I hung up and opened the letter. Inside, a single sentence. Remember what I taught you about chess? The queen protects herself by making others think she's vulnerable. My phone buzzed one last time, a text from Linda. Hurry home, dear. The family needs to stick together in times like these. I tucked the gun into my bag, along with my father's files. They wanted a vulnerable queen? I'd give them one. But first, I had some pawns to sacrifice. The hospital called as I was leaving. I didn't need to answer. Karen's next text told me everything. He's gone. I started my car, plotting my moves. Victor and Linda thought they were playing chess. They didn't realize we'd been playing different games all along. They wanted to break another piece on their board. Instead, they'd created their destroyer. Victor's study felt smaller than I remembered, the wood paneling closing in like a coffin. I sat across from him, my father's files spread between us on his mahogany desk, watching his face as he processed what I'd brought. Quite the story you've constructed, he said finally, tapping the papers with one manicured finger. Though I'm surprised you'd bring such accusations to me directly. Not very strategic. I learned strategy from my father. I kept my voice steady. Before you had him killed. He didn't flinch. Grief can make us imagine terrible things, Layla. Though I must say Thomas's accident was unfortunate timing. Linda appeared in this doorway, Ryan hovering behind her like a shadow. Darling, what's going on? Show them, I said to Victor. Show them what you did to Sarah and the others. Ryan stepped forward. Layla, you're not thinking clearly. 8 women. I cut him off. 8 lives destroyed. Did you know, Ryan? Or did you just look the other way like you always do? That's enough. Victor's voice carried the crack of a gavel. Linda, call Dr. Matthews. Clearly, Layla's father's death has triggered some sort of breakdown. I pulled out my phone, playing the video my father had recorded. His voice filled the room. The evidence is conclusive. Victor's pattern of targeting young professionals, particularly through arranged marriages within his social circle. Linda's perfectly composed face cracked slightly. Victor? It's obviously doctored. He snapped, but his hands were shaking as he reached for his desk drawer. Like Sarah's suicide note? I asked. The one you forced her to write before she disappeared? The gun appeared in Victor's hand so smoothly it seemed like a magic trick. I won't let you destroy what I've built. Ryan finally moved, stepping between us. Dad, put it down. We can fix this. Fix it? Victor laughed, an ugly sound. Like we fixed your other problems? Tell her, Ryan. Tell her why Sarah really left. I saw it in Ryan's face before he spoke. She was pregnant, he whispered. Dad said he'd handle it. The world tilted sideways. I grabbed the desk to steady myself, bile rising in my throat. Family protects family, Linda said mechanically, but her eyes were wild. We did what we had to do. And now? I forced the words out. Will you handle me too? You brought this on yourself, Victor said, the gun unwavering. We gave you every chance to be part of the family, to play your role. My role? I laughed, and it sounded like breaking glass. Like Ryan's role? Your puppet son who helps you trap women, drain them dry, and dispose of them? I loved them, Ryan protested weakly. All of them. I just couldn't stop it. Enough. Victor stood, the gun following my movement as I backed toward the door. Linda, call Matthews. Tell him we need to discuss having Layla committed. Grief-induced paranoia, threatening behavior, the usual story. My back hit the wall. All my careful plans, my father's evidence, useless against their practiced performance. They'd done this before. They'd do it again. You won't get away with this, I said, but the words sounded hollow even to me. We already have. Linda's smile was back, professional and practiced. Who would believe you? The unstable widow, driven mad by her father's tragic accident, making wild accusations against her loving family? Ryan wouldn't meet my eyes. His mother's hand rested on his shoulder, controlling him like a marionette. I trusted you, I said to him. I loved you. Love is weakness, Victor said. Control is power. That's what I taught my son, what I tried to teach you. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Karen's preset signal. Everything was in place, just as we'd planned. But looking at Victor's steady hand on the gun, at Linda's perfect mask, at Ryan's broken submission, I realized something my father had tried to warn me about. Revenge against people who feel no guilt is like throwing stones into an ocean. They don't sink, they drown you instead. The study door opened behind me. 2 men in white coats entered, followed by a distinguished-looking doctor. Matthews, I assumed. Right on cue. Mrs. Anderson? Matthews said gently. Your family is very worried about you. Why don't we go somewhere quiet and talk? I looked at my husband, my in-laws, these strangers who'd orchestrated my destruction with the precision of a symphony. And I smiled. They had no idea what was coming. The news broke during Victor's charity gala. As he stood at the podium, accepting applause for his generous donation, every phone in the ballroom lit up with the same notification. Breaking, local business mogul linked to multiple disappearances. I watched from my seat beside Ryan as Victor's face went ash gray. Linda's champagne glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on the marble floor. What have you done? Ryan whispered, gripping my arm. I smiled, remembering my father's words about chess. I learned from the best. Your family. The evidence my father had gathered wasn't just about Sarah or the money. It was about all of them. Every woman Victor had destroyed, every life Linda had helped dismantle. And now, thanks to Karen's connections at the newspaper, it was public. Victor abandoned his speech, moving through the crowd like a shark cutting through water. Linda followed, her perfect mask cracking with each step. They found us at our table, Victor's hands trembling with barely controlled rage. Outside. Now. His voice could have frozen hell. In the garden, away from prying eyes, Victor finally exploded. Do you have any idea what you've done? Exactly what you taught me, I said. Family protects family, right? I'm protecting the family you tried to destroy. Mine. We can fix this, Linda started, but I cut her off. Like you fixed Sarah? Or did you mean like you fixed my father's brakes? Ryan stepped between us. Layla, please. We can still what? I turned to him. Still pretend you're not complicit? Still act like you didn't know what happened to your own child? The color drained from Linda's face. What did you say? Oh. I feigned surprise. Ryan didn't tell you? Sarah was pregnant when she disappeared. But you knew that already, didn't you, Victor? Linda turned to her husband, then her son. Victor? Ryan? It was necessary, Victor said, but his voice had lost its edge. The pregnancy would have complicated things. Complicated? Linda's perfect facade cracked completely. Our grandchild? The baby would have ruined everything, Ryan whispered. Dad said we had to protect the family name. Linda staggered back as if struck. For the first time, I saw her truly look at her husband, not as her partner in crime, but as the monster he was. The police have everything, I said quietly. Every document, every transaction, every disappeared woman. And Sarah? She's alive. My father found her before you killed him. She's testifying right now. Victor lunged for me, but Ryan caught him. Don't touch her. You ungrateful. Victor swung, his fist connecting with Ryan's jaw. As they struggled, Linda stood frozen, watching her perfect world implode. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. It's over, I said. The queen takes the king. Victor broke free from Ryan, reaching for something in his jacket. The gun appeared again, but this time Linda moved faster than anyone expected. She grabbed Victor's arm, forcing it up as the shot rang out into the night sky. No more, she said, her voice steel. No more deaths, no more lies. Police flooded the garden. As they led Victor away in handcuffs, he kept screaming about family loyalty, about weakness and power. Linda went quietly, her mask finally completely shattered. Ryan stood before me, blood trickling from his split lip. I loved you, he said. That part was real. Love without courage is just another form of fear, I replied. You taught me that too. As they led him away, I felt nothing. Not triumph, not satisfaction, not even relief. Just a hollow space where revenge had lived, waiting to be filled with something new. Karen found me later, sitting alone in the garden. Your father would be proud, she said softly. Would he? I looked at the stars. I'm not sure revenge is what he wanted for me. No, she agreed. He wanted you to be strong, and you are. Stronger than any of them. I touched the locket around my neck, the one containing the last photo of my father and me. The game isn't over yet, I said. There are other families out there like Victor's, other women who need protection. Karen smiled. Then let's get to work. The night air carried the scent of jasmine and justice. Somewhere in the distance, a clock struck midnight, marking the end of one game and the beginning of another. The courtroom emptied slowly, leaving me alone with the echo of the judge's verdict. Victor would serve 20 years. Ryan took a plea deal for 5. Linda turned state's evidence, trading her perfect life for immunity and redemption. I lingered, touching the polished wood of the witness stand where I'd told our story. Where Sarah had told hers, her hand protectively curved around her growing belly. Another chance at the family Victor had tried to destroy. You did well. Linda's voice startled me. She stood in the doorway, looking smaller without her designer suits and carefully crafted persona. Better than I ever could. Was any of it real? I asked. The warmth, the concern, the family dinners? Parts. She moved closer, her heels clicking against marble. I envied you, actually. Your strength. I spent 30 years building walls to protect myself. You built weapons instead. Is that why you helped the prosecution? I helped because... She touched the empty witness stand. Because Sarah wasn't the first. There was another baby before Ryan. Victor said we had to protect the family name. I've been paying for that choice ever since. The revelation hung between us like smoke. Finally, Linda reached into her bag, pulling out a familiar object. My father's watch. They found this in Victor's study, she said. He kept trophies. I thought you should have it back. My hands shook as I took it. The face was cracked from the impact of the crash, frozen at the moment my father's car went off the road. I never wanted, Linda started, but I cut her off. Don't, we both know exactly what you wanted. She nodded, accepting the weight of truth. What will you do now? Through the courthouse windows, I could see Karen waiting by her car. On the passenger seat lay files about other families like Victor's, other women who needed help. My father's last case wouldn't be his lead after all. I'm going to keep playing chess, I said. But this time, I'm changing the rules. Linda's lips curved in what might have been respect. Victor always said the queen was the most dangerous piece on the board. He was wrong. The most dangerous piece is the one that looks harmless until it's too late. She turned to leave, then paused. For what it's worth, I am sorry. About everything. I know, that's what makes it worse. After she left, I stood at the window, watching the city pulse with life. My phone buzzed. A text from Ryan. I never deserved you. I deleted it without responding. Some games aren't worth finishing. Karen honked the horn, impatient. The files in her car contained 3 new cases, 3 more families with secrets dark enough to kill for, 3 more chances to turn victims into victories. I touched my father's watch one last time before slipping it into my pocket. The face was broken, but the mechanism still worked, ticking away the moments between what was and what could be. Outside, the autumn air carried the scent of endings and beginnings. I thought of that house party where I'd first met Ryan, how easily I'd fallen for the promise of family, how expertly they'd played me. But they'd taught me more than they intended. About power, about patience, about the quiet satisfaction of watching carefully laid plans unfold. I slid into Karen's car, opening the first file. Another wealthy family. Another web of lies. Another chance to balance the scales. Ready? Karen asked. I smiled, thinking of Linda's words about queens and chess pieces, about the power of looking harmless until the perfect moment strikes. Ready, I said, and meant it. The city stretched before us, full of beautiful houses hiding ugly secrets, full of families like Victor's, who thought their money and influence made them untouchable, full of women who needed someone to show them how to fight back. They'd created their own worst enemy, teaching me their games, their rules, their weaknesses. Now I would use every lesson against them. The game wasn't over. It was just beginning. And this time I knew exactly how to play.
The pink onesie feels like a slap across my face. I stare at the delicate embroidery. Emma, written in perfect cursive, and something cold settles in my stomach. Our son Noah is barely 2 weeks old. Do you like it? Ryan asks, his smile too bright, too eager. He's standing in our bedroom doorway, watching me unwrap his special gift with those earnest blue eyes that used to make me melt. Now they just make me want to scream. I'm Victoria, and 5 minutes ago I thought I had a perfect life. It's pink, I manage, my fingers tracing the letters. Each loop of the E feels like a knife twisting deeper. And it says Emma. Oh! Ryan's face drops for a split second before he recovers. Must be a mix-up at the store. I'll return it tomorrow. I fold the onesie carefully, methodically, buying time while my mind races. The embroidery is custom. You had to special order this. Come on, Vic. I've been working 60-hour weeks. I probably grabbed the wrong package at the boutique. He crosses the room, reaching for the gift box. Give it here, I'll sort it out. I pull back, clutching the onesie to my chest. Who's Emma? Jesus, you're being paranoid. He laughs, but it sounds hollow. Sleep deprivation getting to you? From the nursery, Noah starts crying. Ryan immediately backs toward the door. I should check on him. I just fed him. He's fine. My voice comes out steadier than I feel. Who is Emma, Ryan? He runs a hand through his perfectly styled hair. A tell I've learned means he's scrambling for words. This is ridiculous. I made a mistake with a baby gift, that's all. You don't make mistakes like this. I stand up, still holding the onesie. You're the most detail-oriented person I know. It's why you're the top realtor at your firm. You triple-check everything. Maybe I'm slipping. He flashes that winning smile that closes million-dollar deals. Having a newborn does that to you. Does what? Makes you order pink clothes with another baby's name for your son? The crying from the nursery gets louder. Ryan gestures toward the sound. He needs us. Answer me. There's nothing to answer, he snaps, facade cracking. You're turning a simple mix-up into some kind of conspiracy theory. This isn't healthy, Vic. I walk to his closet, yanking open the drawer where he keeps his receipts. Another habit of his obsessive organization. The boutique receipt is right on top, dated 3 days ago. Custom embroidery for a pink onesie, size 003 months. You ordered this deliberately. My voice shakes now. Why? He grabs the receipt from my hand, crumpling it. Stop this. You're being hysterical. Hysterical? I laugh, and it sounds slightly unhinged even to my ears. Our son is 2 weeks old, and you're buying baby clothes for someone named Emma. What am I supposed to think? Nothing. You're supposed to think nothing because there's nothing to think about. He's shouting now, matching Noah's wails. This is exactly why I've been working late. You've been impossible since the baby came. The words hit like a physical blow. I step back, bumping into his dresser. A frame tips over, our wedding photo. 3 years ago, both of us beaming at the camera, so sure of our future. How long? I whisper. How long what? How long have you been lying to me? He stares at me for a long moment, jaw working. Then he turns and walks out, calling over his shoulder. I'm going to check on my son. When you've calmed down, we can discuss your paranoid delusions. I watch him go, still clutching the pink onesie. Through the wall, I hear him cooing to Noah, his voice gentle and loving, everything a father should be. But all I can see is that name, Emma, mocking me with its perfect stitches, unraveling everything I thought I knew about my life. I sit on the edge of our bed, smoothing the soft fabric across my lap. Somewhere in this city, there's another nursery being prepared, another woman expecting a baby girl, and my husband knows exactly who she is. 3 days after finding the pink onesie, I'm sitting across from Linda at her kitchen table, watching her hands shake as she pours tea. The china cup rattles against its saucer, the good set she only brings out for serious conversations. Ryan's been different lately, I say, measuring each word. Have you noticed? Linda's eyes dart to the window, then back to me. Different how? Working late, distracted. He bought... I stop, my throat tight. He ordered baby clothes, pink ones, with another name on them. The teacup freezes halfway to her lips. Something flickers across her face. Not surprise, I realize with a cold certainty. Recognition. Victoria, dear. She sets the cup down without drinking. Marriage isn't always easy, especially with a new baby. That's not an answer. She smooths the tablecloth, a nervous gesture I've never seen before. What exactly are you asking me? I'm asking if you know something about Ryan, about... I force the name out. Emma. The color drains from her face. I think you should talk to Ryan about this. I tried. He called me paranoid, hysterical. My laugh comes out bitter. Blamed it on postpartum hormones. Linda stands abruptly, busying herself at the sink. Men can be insensitive sometimes. When Tom and I were first married. Please don't. My voice cracks. Don't make excuses for him. Just tell me the truth. She turns, and I see tears in her eyes. What truth would help right now? What could I possibly say that wouldn't make things worse? The confirmation in her evasion hits me like a physical blow. You knew he was... I can't finish the sentence. I suspected. She whispers it like a confession. The way he talked about his new interior designer at work. How defensive he got when Tom mentioned seeing him downtown with a woman last month. My hands curl into fists under the table. Last month? When I was 8 months pregnant? I told myself I was imagining things, that Ryan would never... She breaks off, wiping her eyes. He's my son. I wanted to believe the best. And what about me? The words taste like ash. Aren't I your daughter too? 3 years of Sunday dinners and holiday traditions, and you just watched him lie to me? Victoria! the front door opens, and Tom's voice booms through the house. Linda, is that Victoria's car outside? Linda's eyes go wide with panic. Please, she whispers. Don't tell Tom. He'll never forgive Ryan. I stand up so quickly, my chair scrapes against the floor. Maybe Ryan doesn't deserve forgiveness. Tom appears in the doorway, his usual stern expression softening at the sight of me. Where's my grandson? With Ryan. My voice sounds strange to my own ears. Having father-son bonding time. Everything all right? Tom's lawyer instincts kick in, reading the tension in the room. You both look fine. Linda cuts in too quickly. Just discussing new mother things. You know how overwhelming it can be. I stare at her, this woman who welcomed me into her family, who held my hand through labor, who's now choosing to protect her son's lies instead of my truth. Actually, I was just leaving. Stay for dinner, Tom insists. Ryan can bring Noah over. We'll make it a family night. Family! The word echoes hollowly. What kind of family builds itself on secrets and silence? I can't! I grab my purse, needing to escape before I scream or cry or both. Noah has a doctor's appointment. On a Sunday. Tom's eyebrows furrow. I meant tomorrow. I need to prepare. I'm already moving toward the door. Thank you for the tea, Linda. She calls after me. Victoria, wait! But I'm already gone, practically running to my car. Inside, I grip the steering wheel until my knuckles turn white, trying to steady my breathing. My phone buzzes. A text from Ryan. Where are you? Noah's fussy. I stare at the message, remembering all the times he texted me from work these past months. Was he with her then? Planning for their baby while I carried his son? Another text appears. Mom says you were just there. Everything okay? I switch off my phone and start the car. Linda chose her side. Now I need to choose mine. And Ryan's about to learn that calling his wife paranoid was the biggest mistake of his life. Ryan's phone lies heavy in my palm at 3 a.m. He's in the shower, his third night shower this week, always after those late client meetings. The lock screen shows Noah's face, a perfect mask of fatherly devotion. I know his password, have known it for years. His birthday backwards. So predictable for someone who thinks he's clever. My fingers shake as I type it in. The messages load instantly. Hundreds of them, all to someone saved as C Interior Design. My throat closes as I scroll, each text a fresh wound. Miss you already. Can't wait to feel her kick again. Our little Emma's going to be perfect. Pictures follow. A nursery in progress. Walls half painted in soft pink. Chloe. I recognize her from Ryan's office party last year. Standing sideways, hand on her pregnant belly. Ryan's arm around her waist, his smile brighter than any he's given me since Noah was born. The shower stops. I should put the phone down, pretend I never saw. But my fingers keep scrolling, desperate for the full scope of his betrayal. A video starts playing before I can stop it. Chloe's voice fills the silence. Say hi to Daddy. I fumble to mute it, but Ryan's already opening the bathroom door. Steam billows out behind him as he freezes, seeing his phone in my hands. What are you doing? I hold up the screen, showing him the paused video. Meeting clients at midnight, Ryan? He grabs for the phone, but I pull back. You're going through my private messages? That's illegal. Illegal? I laugh, the sound sharp and foreign. You want to talk about wrong choices? Give me the phone, Victoria. How far along is she? His jaw clenches. You're being 7 months? I cut him off. That's what the messages say, which means while I was dealing with morning sickness, you were getting her pregnant. It's not that simple. Really? Because the math seems pretty straightforward. He runs a hand through his wet hair, water dripping onto his shoulders. I was going to tell you. When? After Emma was born? Or were you planning to keep your second family secret forever? Lower your voice, he hisses. You'll wake Noah. Now you care about Noah? I stand up, phone clutched to my chest. Where was that concern when you were playing house with your designer? I never stopped caring about Noah. He steps closer, voice dropping to that soothing tone he uses on nervous clients. Or you. Things just happened. Things happened? My voice rises despite his warning. You accidentally fell into another woman? Accidentally got her pregnant? Accidentally ordered matching baby clothes? Give me the phone and we can discuss this rationally. Like you rationally discussed it with your mother. He stills. What? Linda knows. She's been covering for you. The betrayal tastes bitter on my tongue. Your whole family's been watching you destroy ours. That's not... He lunges suddenly, grabbing for the phone. I stumble backward, hitting the dresser. The wedding photo crashes to the floor, glass shattering. Noah's cry pierces the air. Now look what you did! Ryan snaps, reaching for the phone again. I dodge him, running for the nursery. Don't you dare blame this on me! He follows, but I'm already at Noah's crib, scooping up our son. Stay back. You're being hysterical. He holds out his hand. Give me the phone, take care of Noah, and we can talk about this tomorrow when you're calmer. Calmer? I clutch Noah closer as he whimpers. You have another baby on the way, and you want me to be calm. It was a mistake. Which part? Getting her pregnant or getting caught? His face hardens. You really want to do this now? Fine. Yes, Chloe's pregnant. Yes, it's mine. I didn't plan it, but I'm not walking away from my daughter. The casual cruelty of his honesty stuns me silent. I still love you, he continues, softer now. We can work through this, for Noah's sake. I look down at our son, his tiny face scrunched in confusion at the tension around him. Then at Ryan's phone, still displaying evidence of his other life, his other child. You're right, I say finally. We should discuss this tomorrow. Relief floods his face as I hold out the phone, but as his fingers close around it, I meet his eyes. And Ryan, pack a bag. You're not sleeping here tonight. Victoria. Or I'll send these messages to every contact in your phone, including your clients. I turn away, focusing on soothing Noah. Your choice. Behind me, I hear him curse softly, then the sound of drawers opening. I keep my back turned until the front door clicks shut, leaving me alone with our son and the shattered remains of our marriage. Tom's law office feels like a confessional, all dark wood and heavy silence. He studies the photos on his desk, screenshots from Ryan's phone that I printed this morning. Each image lands like a gavel strike. The nursery, the ultrasound, the intimate moments I was never meant to see. 7 months, Tom says finally, his lawyer's composure cracking. While you were carrying his son. I twist my wedding ring, a nervous habit I can't shake. Linda knew. Linda? His head snaps up. My Linda? She suspected, chose to stay quiet. The betrayal still tastes bitter. To protect him, Tom stands abruptly, pacing behind his desk. That's why she's been acting strange. All those whispered phone calls. He stops, facing the window. I saw them, you know, Ryan and this woman, downtown, outside that new French restaurant. When? 3 months ago. He said she was a client. A harsh laugh escapes him. I believed him, even when she touched his arm, laughed too loudly at his jokes. I convinced myself I was being paranoid. Ha! That seems to be going around. I pull out one final photo. Ryan and Chloe kissing in what looks like an office. He's been staging properties for her design company. Tom turns, his expression hardening. The Anderson project? The one that got him promoted? I nod. Apparently, sleeping with the interior designer has its perks. Son of a... He cuts himself off, lawyer mode engaging. Have you spoken to a divorce attorney? Not yet. I wanted to talk to you first. Smart girl. He sits back down, pulling out a legal pad. Ryan's name is on the house deed, but with proof of infidelity and the timing with Noah's birth. We can... I don't want his money. The words come out sharper than intended. I want him to feel what I'm feeling, to lose everything like I did. Tom's pen stills. Revenge won't give you peace, Victoria. Neither will letting him walk away to his perfect new family. No. He sets the pen down carefully. But it might give Noah a chance at having his father in his life. His father? I laugh bitterly. You mean the man who's building a nursery across town while I'm up all night with his son? Who's picking out names for his daughter while telling me I'm paranoid for questioning him? Victoria! A knock interrupts us. Linda appears in the doorway, her face falling as she sees me. I didn't know you had a client. Not a client. Tom's voice is ice. Our daughter-in-law, showing me some interesting photos of our son. Linda pales. Tom, I can explain. Can you? He stands again, trembling with barely contained rage. Explain why you kept this from me? From Victoria? I thought. She steps into the office, closing the door. I thought if I gave him time, he'd end it, come to his senses. And when he didn't? I asked quietly. When you found out about the baby? Tears spill down her cheeks. I'm so sorry. I was trying to protect everyone. By protecting him, Tom corrects. Always him, even now. He's our son. And what about our grandson? Tom's voice rises. What about Victoria? When did they stop deserving protection? Linda collapses into a chair, sobbing. I didn't know what to do. He's always been so fragile, ever since Mark. Don't. Tom cuts her off sharply. Don't use his brother's death to excuse this. I look between them, sensing an old wound reopening. What about Mark? Ryan's older brother, Tom says after a long pause, died in a car accident when Ryan was 16. Linda's been overprotective ever since. He needed me, Linda whispers, and now he needs consequences. Tom returns to his desk, pulling out more papers. Victoria, I'm going to give you some names, excellent divorce attorneys, but first, he fixes me with a stern look. What exactly do you want? I think of Noah, sleeping peacefully at the neighbor's house, of Ryan's smug certainty that I'd never leave him, of Linda's tears and misplaced loyalty. I want him to lose everything, I say slowly. His reputation, his promotion, his perfect image. I want everyone to see him for what he really is. Tom nods, understanding darkening his features. Then we'll need a plan, one that can't be traced back to you. Linda makes a small broken sound. You're going to help her destroy our son? No, Tom replies, already writing. I'm going to help her survive him. The weight of their broken family settles around us like dust, and I realize there's no going back now. Ryan's not the only one with secrets anymore. Chloe's design studio looks exactly like her Instagram photos, all clean lines and muted pastels. I watch through the window as she moves between fabric samples, one hand absently rubbing her pregnant belly. Ryan's baby, my replacement family. Tom's words echo in my head. Are you sure about this? But I'm already pushing open the door, setting off a delicate wind chime. Chloe turns, professional smile freezing as recognition hits. Victoria, you know who I am. It's not a question. She straightens, protective hands crossing over her stomach. Ryan told me you might come. Did he tell you about Noah too? Or did that detail slip his mind? Color drains from her face. I don't want any trouble. Funny, neither did I. I move closer, studying the ultrasound photo pinned to her mood board. Emma's a beautiful name. Please leave. Her voice shakes. I'll call security. Go ahead. I'm sure they'd love to hear how you and Ryan secured the Anderson contract. Those late-night design meetings must have been very productive. She sinks into a chair, defeat replacing fear. You don't understand. Try me, he said. She swallows hard. He said you were separated, that you'd agreed to divorce months ago, but wanted to wait until after the baby, after Noah was born. I laugh, sharp and hollow. And you believed him? He showed me papers, said you'd signed them. What papers? She reaches for her phone, hands trembling as she pulls up photos. Divorce papers, dated 6 months ago, with what looks like my signature at the bottom. My stomach lurches. That's forged. What? I never signed anything. I grab her phone, zooming in. He copied my signature from our mortgage documents. Chloe makes a small broken sound. No, he wouldn't. Like he wouldn't sleep with his interior designer while his wife was pregnant? Like he wouldn't build a nursery across town for his second child? Stop! She stands abruptly, swaying slightly. You need to go. Why? Because the truth hurts? Because I'm having contractions. The words hit like a slap. I look closer. Her face is pale, beaded with sweat. You're only 7 months. 7.5. She grips the desk. And this isn't the first time. Doctor said stress could trigger early labor. Something shifts in my chest. Not quite sympathy, but recognition. Another woman trapped in Ryan's web of lies. Do you need a hospital? I need you to leave. Tears streak her makeup. Please, I can't. I can't process this right now. My phone buzzes. Ryan's name on the screen. Of course he knows I'm here. Probably has someone watching the studio. He's calling you too, isn't he? Chloe asks quietly. I show her my screen. She turns her phone around. Same caller. Perfect, Ryan, I say bitterly, always trying to control everything. Everyone, she corrects, then doubles over with another contraction. I should leave. Let her deal with the consequences of sleeping with a married man. Let Ryan clean up his own mess. Instead, I find myself moving forward, supporting her weight. Where's your hospital bag? What? You're in premature labor. You need medical attention. The words taste like ash, but I continue. I'm taking you to the hospital. Why would you help me? Because I know what it's like to be pregnant and scared. Because Emma deserves better than her father's lies. Because revenge doesn't taste as sweet when there's an innocent life at stake. I don't say any of this. Instead, I grab her bag from behind the desk, already packed, another sign of her high-risk pregnancy, and guide her toward the door. Victoria? Her voice is small, pained. There's something else you should know. About Ryan. About why he… My phone buzzes again. This time it's Tom. Don't do anything rash. New information about Ryan's past. Call me immediately. But Chloe's gripping my arm, face contorted in pain. And whatever secrets are lurking in Ryan's history will have to wait. Tell me later, I say, helping her to my car. Right now, we need to make sure Emma's okay. As we drive away, I catch a glimpse of a familiar car in the rearview mirror. Ryan's BMW, turning into the studio parking lot. Let him wonder where we've gone. Let him feel what it's like to be powerless for once. Besides, I think grimly, steering toward the hospital, there's more than one way to destroy a man's carefully constructed lies. Sometimes the best revenge is simply letting the truth come to light on its own. The hospital waiting room feels like purgatory. I've been here 6 hours, watching doctors rush past, ignoring Ryan's increasingly frantic calls. Tom's message still burns in my mind. New information about Ryan's past. Chloe's in emergency surgery. Placental abruption, they said. Critical, but stable. Mrs. Sanders? I look up. A nurse stands there, clipboard in hand. I'm not her family. You're listed as her emergency contact. She consults her notes. Added this afternoon. Before I can process this, Ryan bursts through the doors, Linda trailing behind him. He spots me and freezes. Where is she? Surgery. My voice sounds distant, hollow. They're trying to save your daughter. Linda makes a small, broken sound. Ryan steps forward, face twisted with something between rage and fear. This is your fault, if you hadn't upset her. My fault. I stand, weeks of anger suddenly boiling over. You forged divorce papers, you built a life on lies, and you dare blame me? What papers? Linda asks, but Ryan talks over her. I was going to tell you everything, after Emma. After what? After you had your perfect new family? Your do-over baby? Don't. His voice drops dangerously. Don't talk about Emma like that. Why not? Isn't that what this is about? Replacing your brother's memory with a daughter named after him? The words hang in the air like smoke. Linda gasps. Ryan's face goes white. Tom told you. No. I laugh bitterly. Chloe did, right before she started bleeding. Told me all about how you convinced her to name the baby Emma, after your brother Mark's daughter. the one who died with him in that car crash. Ryan grabs my arm, fingers digging in. You don't know what you're talking about. Let go of her. Tom's voice cuts through the tension. He stands in the doorway, holding a manila envelope. Or should we add assault to the list of charges? Charges? Linda steps between us. What charges? Tom opens the envelope, pulling out documents. Fraud, for starters. Those forged divorce papers. Then there's the Anderson contract. Interesting how it was awarded right after you started sleeping with the interior designer. You can't prove anything, Ryan snarls, but his grip loosens. Actually, I can. I pull out my phone, playing a recording. Chloe's voice fills the space. He showed me papers, said you'd signed them. Ryan lunges for the phone, but Tom blocks him. That's inadmissible. In court, maybe. Tom's voice is ice. But I'm sure the ethics board would be interested, and your clients, and the press. A doctor appears, still in surgical scrubs. Family of Chloe Mitchell? Ryan turns, mask of concern sliding back into place. I'm the father. The baby's stable, but critical. We had to deliver early. Ms. Mitchell is asking for Victoria. Me? I blink. Why? Because. Chloe's lawyer steps into the waiting room, another envelope in hand. She's naming Victoria as Emma's guardian, in case anything happens. The room spins. Ryan makes a sound like he's been punched. She can't do that, he protests. I'm the father. An unmarried father, the lawyer corrects, who committed fraud and whose name isn't on any prenatal documents. Ms. Mitchell's wishes are quite clear. I stare at the papers being thrust into my hands. Guardian. For my husband's daughter with another woman. The revenge I wanted now feels like ashes in my mouth. Victoria, Ryan's voice breaks. Please, she's my daughter. My chance to make things right. Right? I turn to him, seeing him clearly for the first time. Not a monster, just a broken man trying to rebuild his life with lies. You can't replace what you lost, Ryan. Not with Emma, not with Noah, not with any number of perfect families. The doctor clears his throat. Ms. Mitchell is waiting. I look at the papers in my hands, then at Linda's tears, Tom's grim determination, Ryan's desperation. 3 weeks ago, I had a perfect life. Now I'm standing in a hospital, holding guardianship papers for my husband's premature daughter, while my newborn son sleeps at home with a neighbor. Take me to Chloe, I say finally. As I follow the doctor, I hear Ryan collapse into a chair. Linda's soft consolations, Tom's heavy sigh. The weight of their broken family, our broken family, settles onto my shoulders like a shroud. Some revenge stories, I'm learning, have no winners. Only survivors. Chloe's hospital room is dimly lit, machines beeping steadily. She looks small against the white sheets, nothing like the confident woman from her design studio. Emma? Her voice cracks. Stable, in NICU. I hover by the door, unsure of my place in this twisted scenario. Why me? For guardianship? Because you'll protect her. She shifts, wincing. From him, from becoming another replacement. The door opens. Ryan stands there, looking wrecked. Chloe, please! Don't! She tries to sit up, monitor alarms spiking. You lied to me, about everything. I loved you, love you both. Like you loved your brother's Emma? The words hit him like physical blows. Tell her, Ryan. Tell Victoria about the first Emma. He grabs the doorframe, knuckles white. This isn't the time. My daughter's fighting for her life because of your lies. Chloe's voice strengthens with anger. Tell her why you really chose me, why you needed another Emma. I watch him crumble, the perfect facade finally shattering. Mark was driving. The night of the accident. My niece Emma was in the back seat. Ryan! Linda appears behind him, reaching out. He jerks away. I was supposed to be there, was supposed to pick them up, but I had a date. Mark covered for me, like always. The perfect older brother, Chloe says bitterly. Until he wasn't. I saw Chloe at a client meeting. Ryan's words tumble out now, unstoppable. She looked like Mark's wife. Same smile. When she said she'd always wanted a daughter, you saw your chance, I finish, to rewrite history. I could make it right, give Emma the life she lost. By lying? Chloe's monitor spikes again. By manipulating me? Creating some sick replacement family while your wife carried your son? I never meant to get caught. Tom's voice cuts through. He enters, holding more papers. The ethics board disagreed. They've suspended your license pending investigation. Ryan spins toward him. You didn't. I did. Tom's face is stone. Someone had to stop this madness. It's not madness, Ryan shouts. It's fixing things, making them right. By destroying more lives? I step between him and Chloe's bed. Noah and Emma deserve better than being pieces in your redemption story. Noah, he laughs, hollow. The son I never wanted? Another replacement? Courtesy of your biological clock? The room goes silent. Linda gasps. There it is! My voice is steady, surprising me. The truth, finally. Victoria! He reaches for me, but I step back. No, you don't get to touch me, not after that. I turn to Chloe. I accept the guardianship for both children. What? Ryan lunges forward. Tom catches his arm. Joint custody, I continue, between me and Chloe, once she's recovered. You can't. We can. Chloe's lawyer appears, right on cue. The papers are filed. Given the circumstances, the fraud, the ethics violation, your documented instability, I'm their father. A father who sees his children as replacements for his dead niece. Tom's voice cracks like a whip. The court will love that. Ryan crumples into a chair, head in his hands. Linda moves to comfort him, but stops, torn between her son and the wreckage he's created. Get out! Chloe's voice is weak but firm. All of you, except Victoria. They file out, Tom steering Ryan, Linda lingering at the door before following. The lawyer nods, promising to return later. In the sudden quiet, Chloe's monitors steady. I'm sorry, she whispers. For what? Falling for his lies. Helping him hurt you. You were manipulated. We both were. I sink into the chair beside her bed. But our children won't be. She reaches for my hand, surprising me. Noah and Emma. Real people, not replacements. Real siblings, I correct, surprising myself more. Whether Ryan likes it or not. Outside the room, I hear Ryan's broken sobs, Linda's soft murmurs, Tom's firm voice handling details. The family I thought I had crumbling, while something new and unexpected takes shape in its place. Victoria? Chloe's grip tightens. Promise me something? What? Help me make sure Emma knows her own story, not the one Ryan tried to write for her. I think of Noah at home, of the pink onesie that started this all, of the twisted path that led us here. I promise, they'll both know the truth, the real story. Not a revenge story after all, but something more complicated. A story of healing maybe, of choosing truth over perfect lies. The pink onesie sits on my kitchen table, next to divorce papers and custody agreements. 3 weeks since the hospital, since everything changed. Noah sleeps in his bassinet nearby, while I pack the last of Ryan's things. The doorbell rings. Linda stands there, looking older than I've ever seen her. He's in therapy, she says without preamble. Grief counseling. For Mark, finally. Good. I mean it, surprisingly. Come in, Noah just ate. She hesitates at the threshold. I wasn't sure I'd be welcome. You're still his grandmother. I step aside. And Emma's too, if you want to be. Her eyes fill with tears. How is she? Getting stronger? Chloe's moving into the guest house next week. I lead her to the kitchen. The doctors say Emma can come home soon. Linda spots the onesie, reaching for it with trembling fingers. I remember when the first Emma wore something like this. I'm not trying to replace her. The words come out sharper than intended. Neither of them are replacements. I know. She sets the onesie down carefully. That's why I trust you with them both. The front door opens. Tom, carrying moving boxes. He pauses, seeing Linda, then continues to Ryan's office. We listen to him work in silence. I found this. Linda pulls out an old photo. Mark and Ryan at the lake house. Before everything. Two brothers grin at the camera, arms around each other. Ryan looks young, unburdened, happy. He was different then, Linda whispers. After the accident, he just stopped dealing with it, started trying to fix everything instead. By controlling it. Yes. She touches the photo gently. I enabled him. Thought if I just loved him enough, protected him enough. You can't fix someone by hiding their broken pieces. Tom returns, carrying Ryan's awards from the real estate firm. Where should these go? Storage, I decide, in case Noah or Emma want them someday. He nods, understanding what I'm not saying. Their father's legacy, complicated, painful, but still theirs to know. My phone buzzes. Chloe, sending a NICU photo. Emma's tiny hand wrapped around her finger. I show Linda, watching her face soften. She looks strong, Linda says, like her mother. Both her mothers, Tom corrects quietly. The doorbell rings again. This time it's Ryan, here for his boxes. He looks thinner, shadows under his eyes. I'll get the rest, Tom says, steering Linda toward the nursery, giving us space. Ryan spots the onesie, flinching. You kept it. For Emma, the real Emma. I fold it carefully. Not the one you imagined. He nods, throat working. The therapist says I've been chasing ghosts, trying to rewrite endings. And now? Now I'm trying to learn how to live with the real story. He picks up a box, pausing. Will you tell them about Mark someday? The good parts? Yes, when they're old enough to understand. That their father's broken? That everyone is, in different ways. I meet his eyes. It's what we do with our broken pieces that matters. He starts to reach for Noah's bassinet, then stops himself. I'd like to see them sometimes, when I'm better. We'll talk about it, with the lawyers and therapists. He accepts this with a nod, gathering his things. At the door, he turns back. I did love you, Victoria, just not enough to be honest, not enough to face the truth. He shifts the box. Take care of them? Always. After he leaves, I return to the kitchen. Linda and Tom are back, watching Noah sleep. The pink onesie lies between us, no longer a symbol of betrayal, but something else. A bridge, maybe, between past and future. We should go, Linda says reluctantly. Unless you need help. Actually, I pick up Noah, making a decision. Would you like to come to the hospital? Emma's having a good day. Chloe said we could visit. Linda's face lights up. Tom squeezes her hand. As we leave, I grab the onesie. Not for the ghost of a little girl lost years ago, but for the real Emma fighting to come home. For the complicated, imperfect family we're becoming. Sometimes revenge isn't about destroying someone's perfect lies. Sometimes it's about building something true from the wreckage they leave behind.
The video plays on my phone screen, and I can't stop watching my father's smug face as he accepts his promotion to superintendent. His perfectly pressed suit, that rehearsed humble smile, it makes my stomach turn. 4 years, and he still wears the same navy tie with diagonal stripes, the one Mother bought him for their 20th anniversary. My name is Kendra, and I shouldn't care about any of this anymore. I deleted all my family's social media years ago, but Sophie just had to send me this clip. Thought you should see this, her message read. As if I needed another reminder of the perfect family image they maintain while pretending I don't exist. Is that him? Daniel appears behind me, his hand gentle on my shoulder. You okay? I nod, but my fingers are trembling as I replay the moment where Father thanks his loving family for their support. The camera pans to Mother and Emily in the front row, both wearing matching pearl necklaces. My sister's smile is brittle around the edges. I wonder if anyone else notices. What a performance, I mutter, closing the video. Did you catch how he didn't even mention Tyler? Or me? just his 2 decades of dedication to family values and education. The words taste bitter in my mouth. Daniel sits beside me on our worn leather couch, the one we bought secondhand when we first moved in together. "You don't have to watch this stuff, Ken. It's not good for you." "No, I needed to see it." I stand up, pacing our small living room. Through the nursery door, I can hear our son's soft breathing during his afternoon nap. They're hosting this big community celebration next month. Everyone who's anyone in the district will be there. "Kendra." Daniel's voice carries that note of concern I've grown familiar with. "Whatever you're thinking, I'm thinking it's time." I stop pacing, meeting his worried gaze. Time everyone knew what kind of man William Preston really is? What kind of parents abandon their pregnant teenage daughter? What kind of people hide the existence of their disabled son for 30 years? My phone buzzes. Another message from Sophie. This time, it's a link to the event details, complete with press coverage information. My father's face beams from the promotional banner, his campaign slogan beneath, "Building better futures through family values." They made their choice 4 years ago. Daniel reminds me gently. We've built something good here without them. I look at the family photos on our wall. Genuine moments of joy captured with Daniel, our son, Aunt Evelyn, and Uncle Marcus, the family we chose. But there's this hollow space inside me that won't heal, not while they continue spreading their lies. "Tyler called yesterday," I say quietly. "He wants to meet again. Says he has something important to tell me about father." Daniel's expression shifts. He knows about Tyler now, about the half-brother my parents abandoned long before they abandoned me. The secret that could shatter their carefully constructed facade. My phone buzzes one more time. It's Emily. "Saw Sophie sent you the video. Please don't do anything stupid. Some things are better left in the past." I delete her message without responding. Emily made her choice when she married Brian, my ex, the one who walked away when I told him I was pregnant. The perfect couple in my parents' perfect world. "Whatever you decide," Daniel says, standing to pull me close. "I'm with you. Just be sure it's what you really want." Revenge has a way of burning everyone involved. I lean into his embrace, but my mind is already racing with possibilities. The community celebration is exactly 1 month away. Plenty of time to gather evidence, to connect with Tyler, to plan how we'll finally make them face the truth they've buried for so long. "They thought they could just erase us," I whisper. But some stories refuse to stay hidden. In the nursery, our son stirs and lets out a small cry. As I move to comfort him, I catch my reflection in the hallway mirror. I see mother's chin, father's eyes, and something entirely my own: determination. Emily's text arrives while I'm feeding my son his breakfast. "Coffee at Marcus and Evelyn's cafe? We need to talk." The message sits there, deceptively casual, as if we're still the sisters who used to share everything. I wipe pureed carrots from Jamie's chin, studying his innocent face. He has Daniel's gentle eyes, thank God. Nothing of Brian in him at all. "You don't have to go," Daniel says from behind his laptop, where he's working on his latest design project. Emily made her choice when she married him. But I'm already reaching for my phone. Actually, I do. I type quickly. "Noon. Don't bring Brian." The cafe is quiet when I arrive, the lunch rush not yet begun. Uncle Marcus spots me first, his expression darkening slightly. He knows what day it is, the anniversary of when they threw me out. "She's in the back corner," he says quietly, squeezing my shoulder. "Want me to hover nearby?" I shake my head. "I've got this." Emily sits primly at our usual table, wearing one of Mother's hand-me-down blazers. Her wedding ring catches the light as she stirs her latte, the ring that should have been mine, before Brian decided a pregnant girlfriend wasn't part of his 5-year plan. "You look tired," she says by way of greeting. "Babies do that." I slide into the seat across from her. "What do you want, Em?" Mother's worried. "She saw you watching Father's speech online, multiple times." Of course she did. Sophie probably told Brian, who told Emily, who told Mother. The perfect information chain. Fascinating how she tracks my online activity but couldn't be bothered to meet her grandson. Emily's perfectly manicured fingers tighten around her cup. You know how it is. Appearances matter more than actual family? I cut in. Yeah, I got that message 4 years ago. A muscle twitches in Emily's jaw. The same tell she had when we were kids, hiding secrets from our parents. There's more at stake than you realize, Ken. Father's position, the family's reputation. What about Tyler's position? The words slip out before I can stop them. Emily goes very still. The color drains from her face, and for a moment, I see the sister I used to know. The one who used to sneak into my room late at night, whispering about escape plans we never followed through on. How do you... She swallows hard. Who told you about him? Does it matter? What matters is that I know. About our half-brother, about what they did to him. What they did to me wasn't their first time abandoning family. It wasn't like that, Emily hisses, leaning forward. Tyler needed specialized care. They couldn't handle... Save it. I stand up abruptly, my chair scraping against the floor. You know what's funny? I actually came here hoping you'd be different. That maybe you'd finally choose to do the right thing. Ken, please. Emily grabs my wrist. Whatever you're planning for the celebration next month, don't. Some secrets need to stay buried. I look down at her hand, at the ring that symbolizes every betrayal between us. Like how you and Brian were seeing each other behind my back months before I got pregnant. That kind of secret? She releases me as if burned. The truth hangs between us, finally spoken after 4 years. I didn't... She starts, but can't finish. Didn't what? Mean to hurt me? That's the problem with our family, Em. Nobody ever means to hurt anyone. They just do what's best for appearances, for reputation, for Father's precious career. Uncle Marcus appears with a fresh coffee, his timing perfect. Everything okay here? Fine, Emily says quickly, gathering her designer purse. I should go. Brian's waiting. Of course he is. I watch her retreat, noting how her shoulders hunch slightly. Another tell from our childhood, when she knew she was in the wrong but wouldn't admit it. You okay, kiddo? Marcus asks softly. I pull out my phone, opening the message Tyler sent me last night. A photo of him as a child, hidden away in some specialized facility, while Father built his empire of family values and Mother pretended she'd only ever had 2 perfect daughters. I will be, I say, hitting reply, once everyone knows the truth. Marcus studies me carefully. Your aunt might have some things to tell you, about Tyler, about your parents, when you're ready to hear them. I look up sharply, catching the weight in his words. There's more. There's always more with this family. I'm ready now. Aunt Evelyn's hands shake as she pulls the dusty photo album from the top shelf of her closet. We're sitting in her bedroom, the same room where I slept those first few weeks after being thrown out, crying myself to sleep while cradling my growing belly. Your mother made me swear, she says, settling beside me on the bed. But I can't keep carrying this anymore. The album's leather cover is cracked, its pages yellowed. A hospital bracelet falls out as she opens it. Faded blue, dated 30 years ago. Tyler wasn't born with disabilities, Evelyn says quietly. The accident happened when he was 2. My fingers trace the bracelet. What accident? William was watching him, or supposed to be. She turns a page, revealing a toddler's bright smile. He was on the phone with the school board about a promotion. Tyler fell down the stairs. The room suddenly feels too small, too warm. I stand up, pacing like I do when Jamie's colicky. Father always said Tyler was born that way, that they couldn't handle a special needs child. Your father says a lot of things. Evelyn's voice carries an edge I've never heard before. Martha wanted to keep him, but William, he said it would ruin his career trajectory. A principal with a disabled son? The community would question his competence. My phone buzzes. Another message from Emily. I ignore it. There's more. Evelyn continues, pulling out an envelope. Medical records, payment arrangements to the facility. all in Martha's name so nothing would trace back to William. Did Emily know? She was only 5 when it happened. They told her Tyler died. Evelyn's hands clench around the envelope. Marcus and we visited him when we could, until William threatened to ruin Marcus's business if we didn't stop. A photo slips from the album. Tyler at maybe 16, in a wheelchair, Evelyn and Marcus on either side of him. His smile is different now, but his eyes, they're father's eyes, like mine. Why tell me this now? Because Tyler contacted us last week. He's planning to attend William's celebration. She meets my gaze steadily. He wants to tell his story. My phone buzzes again. This time it's a text from an unknown number. We should meet. I have father's old journals. T. The pieces click together. Emily's panic at the cafe. Mother's sudden interest in my online activity. Father's rushed promotion celebration. They know he's back, I whisper. That's why they're pushing this event so quickly. William's already trying to discredit Tyler. Evelyn confirms, calling him disturbed, unreliable, claims he's just after money. I laugh, but it comes out harsh. Like he claimed I was just being rebellious and irresponsible? Kendra... Evelyn reaches for my hand, but I pull away. No, I'm done with their lies. I grab the envelope of records, my hands steady now. Tyler deserves justice. We both do. My phone lights up with Emily's 3rd message. Mother knows you're at Evelyn's. She found Tyler's letters. Please, Ken, don't do this to the family. The family? I say aloud, my voice rising. What about what they did to us? Evelyn stands, pulling another box from under her bed. There's something else you should see. Letters Martha wrote to Tyler but never sent. And... She hesitates. Documents about other children. Before Tyler. My breath catches. What other children? Your father had another family, before Martha. A wife and daughter who disappeared after threatening to expose his abusive behavior. She pulls out a newspaper clipping, dated 25 years ago. The official story was they moved away, but I stare at the grainy photo of a woman who could be Mother's twin, holding a little girl. The article mentions a custody dispute, then nothing. My phone buzzes one final time. Tyler. I'm outside Evelyn's house. Time to talk about what really happened to Sarah and Rebecca Preston. I look at Evelyn, seeing the weight of decades of secrets in her eyes. Who are Sarah and Rebecca? Your father's first wife and daughter. She hands me the newspaper. And if William finds out you know about them, he'll do worse than just disown you. Some secrets are buried deeper than others. Through the window, I see a car pulling up. A man in a wheelchair emerges with help from his caregiver, my half-brother, the living proof of our father's greatest failure. Then it's time to start digging, I say, gathering the evidence of our family's darkest truths. All of it. Daniel finds me at the kitchen table at 3 a.m, surrounded by father's old journals and Tyler's medical records. The coffee's long gone cold, but my hands won't stop shaking anyway. Jamie's going to be up in a few hours. He says softly, but I barely hear him. Listen to this, I say, pushing a journal entry toward him. March 15th, 1992. Sarah threatened to go public today. Claims she has proof. She doesn't understand what's at stake. My career, my future. Some sacrifices are necessary. I flip through more pages. 2 weeks later, they disappeared. Daniel sits beside me, his designer's eyes scanning the scattered papers. Have you told Tyler about this? He's the one who found the journals, in a storage unit registered to Mother. I run my fingers over the faded ink. Father's first wife and daughter didn't just move away. They vanished. No forwarding address, no school records, nothing. My phone lights up. Emily again. 17 missed calls since yesterday. She knows something. I mutter. Emily was 5 when Tyler had his accident, but she remembers more than she's saying. Ken... Daniel hesitates, choosing his words carefully. What exactly are you planning to do with all this? Before I can answer, another text arrives. From Brian, of all people. Emily's not eating, not sleeping. Whatever you're planning, please stop. I laugh, the sound harsh in our quiet kitchen. Now he cares about someone's well-being? You need to be careful, Daniel says, gathering the scattered papers. These accusations, if they're true, my father's not just a manipulative bastard who abandoned his children. He's... The word sticks in my throat. A knock at the door makes us both jump. It's 4 a.m. No one should be here. Daniel moves toward the door while I quickly shove the papers into a folder. Sophie? Daniel's voice carries his surprise. She bursts in, still wearing her work clothes from the late shift at the hospital. You need to see this. She thrusts her phone at me. It just came across my desk. A Jane Doe from '92. Cold case, recently reopened. My hands go numb as I stare at the photo. A woman in her 30s, found in a ravine 2 counties over. No identification. Cause of death. Inconclusive. Look at her hands, Sophie whispers. The woman's right hand bears a distinctive ring, a silver band with a unique pattern. I've seen that ring before in the old photos Evelyn showed me. Sarah Preston's wedding ring. There's more, Sophie continues. The detective who reopened the case? He received an anonymous tip last week, right after your father's promotion was announced. Jamie's cry pierces the silence, and I realize I'm gripping the phone so hard my knuckles have gone white. Daniel goes to check on our son, leaving me with Sophie and this horrible revelation. Tyler, I breathe. He must have known. My phone buzzes again. Mother this time. We need to talk. About Sarah. About what really happened that night. The room spins slightly. All my plans for exposing father's hypocrisy at his celebration suddenly seem small, childish even. This isn't about ruined reputations anymore. This is about... Kendra? Sophie touches my arm. What are you going to do? I look at the scattered evidence of my father's crimes. The journals, the medical records, the photos of a dead woman wearing my father's first wife's ring. The celebration is in 3 weeks. Every important person in the district will be there, watching father accept his accolades for being an upstanding pillar of the community. I'm going to need your help, I tell Sophie. Both of you. This isn't just about revenge anymore. Daniel returns with Jamie, our son's presence a stark reminder of what's at stake. One wrong move, and history might repeat itself. Father's already proven what he's capable of when his reputation is threatened. We should call the police, Daniel suggests, but I shake my head. Not yet. First, we need to find Rebecca, Sarah's daughter. If she's still alive, she's the key to everything. I look at the photo of the Jane Doe one more time. And Emily. Emily knows something. She has to. My phone lights up with one final message. Tyler. Found Rebecca. She's been closer than you think. Meet tomorrow? I stare at the text, my heart pounding. Somewhere in the darkness, a car door slams and headlights sweep across our kitchen window. I freeze, wondering if Father already knows what we've discovered. The game has changed. This isn't about family shame anymore. It's about justice. And maybe, just maybe, preventing another tragedy before history repeats itself. The cafe's security cameras catch everything. On Sophie's laptop screen, I watch Emily slip through the back door at midnight, passing a thick envelope to a man whose face stays hidden in shadow. 3 nights before Father's celebration. Play it again, Tyler says from beside me, his wheelchair positioned at the perfect angle to see the screen. We've been holed up in Sophie's apartment for hours, reviewing footage Marcus secretly installed after Emily's suspicious visits. The timestamp matches when Father made that call to the detective, Sophie points out, rewinding the video. The one who suddenly dropped the reopened investigation into Sarah's case. My fingers drum against the table, muscle memory from years of anxiety under Father's roof. Emily's always been their perfect messenger. Clean hands, spotless reputation. Unlike some of us, Tyler says with a bitter smile, gesturing to himself. The door opens and Daniel enters with takeout bags. Jamie's down for his nap at your aunt's, he tells me, but his eyes linger on the scattered evidence across Sophie's dining table. News clippings, medical records, father's journals, a paper trail of destroyed lives. My phone buzzes. Mother, Emily told us everything. About the cameras, about Tyler. Please, sweetheart, let's discuss this privately. Family matters should stay within the family. Family matters. I echo, the words tasting like ash. Like Sarah's murder was a family matter? Tyler's hand finds mine, squeezing gently. We're close, Ken. The celebration's the perfect moment. Everyone who matters will be there, watching their perfect superintendent accept his accolades. While wearing the watch he took from Sarah's body, Sophie adds, pulling up another photo. The distinctive gold timepiece gleams on Father's wrist in every public appearance since 1992. My phone buzzes again. Emily this time. They know about Rebecca. She's not safe anymore. The room tilts slightly. What does she mean they know about Rebecca? Daniel asks, but I'm already dialing Aunt Evelyn's number. No answer. Marcus said Emily's been asking about old storage units. Sophie says quietly. One's registered to your mother. The pieces click together with horrifying clarity. She's not just their messenger anymore. I whisper. She's their cleaner, like Mother was for Father after Sarah. Tyler's wheelchair scrapes against the floor as he turns to face me fully. There's something I haven't told you, he says, his voice tight. About Rebecca. About why I really came back. But before he can continue, Sophie's laptop pings with an alert. New security footage, live from the cafe. Emily again, but this time she's not alone. A woman stands with her, their bodies tense in conversation. The woman's face is partially hidden, but I recognize the gesture she makes. The same nervous hair twist I do when stressed. Rebecca, Tyler breathes. My phone lights up with a final message from Father. The celebration begins at 7 p.m. tomorrow. Your sister tells me you've been quite busy. Remember, Kendra, everything I've done has been to protect this family. Don't make me protect it from you too. Daniel moves behind me, his hand warm on my shoulder. We should call the police. With what evidence? Sophie counters. Everything we have is circumstantial. And if Emily's warning about Rebecca is true, we need to move now, Tyler says firmly, before they can hide her again. Or worse. I stare at the footage, at Emily and Rebecca locked in their tense exchange. My perfect sister, Father's loyal soldier, standing face to face with the daughter he erased 30 years ago. The celebration's elaborate plans mock us from a browser tab. Speeches, awards, community leaders gathered to honor William Preston's legacy of family values and educational excellence. No, I say, standing abruptly. We're done hiding in the shadows. They want to keep this in the family? I grab Father's journal, the one detailing Sarah's final days. Then let's make it a proper family reunion. Kendra. Daniel starts, but I cut him off. Call Marcus. Tell him to get Aunt Evelyn somewhere safe. Sophie, keep monitoring those cameras. And Tyler. I meet my brother's eyes, seeing my own determination reflected back. It's time to tell me everything about Rebecca. No more secrets. My phone buzzes one last time. An unknown number. Hello, little sister. We should talk before tomorrow. About Father, about Sarah. About what really happens to people who threaten the Preston family name. The message is signed simply, R. The game has changed. Tomorrow's celebration won't just expose Father's hypocrisy. It'll either end his reign of terror or add more names to his list of family casualties. And I'm done being afraid of making his precious list. The celebration hall gleams with false promises. Father stands at the podium, his superintendent's medal catching the light as he delivers his speech about family values and educational excellence. Mother and Emily sit in the front row. Perfect posture, perfect smiles, perfect lies. I clutch Tyler's evidence folder backstage, waiting for my cue. Daniel's text flashes on my phone. Police are here, ready when you are. But something's wrong. Emily's chair is empty now. And Rebecca hasn't answered since our meeting last night. Ladies and gentlemen, Father's voice booms through the speakers. Family isn't just about blood, it's about choices. My phone buzzes again. Unknown number. Check the basement storage room. Now. I shouldn't go alone. Should wait for Daniel, for Sophie, for the police. But my feet are already moving, carrying me down the service stairs. The basement lights flicker, casting shadows that remind me of childhood hiding places. The storage room door is ajar. Inside, Emily stands over an open filing cabinet, feeding documents into a portable shredder. "You're too late," she says without turning around. Mother's already moved Rebecca, just like they moved Tyler all those years ago. Where is she? Safe. Safer than Sarah was, anyway. Emily's hands pause on a familiar-looking journal. Did you really think Father wouldn't have contingency plans? That he'd let you ruin everything he's built? Footsteps behind me. Mother's voice, soft and deadly. "Oh, sweetheart, you should have stayed away." I spin around. Mother holds something in her hand. Sarah's watch, the twin to the one Father wears. The one missing from the evidence photos. "Rebecca was never going to help you," Mother continues. "She's been working with us for years. Who do you think kept Tyler's location secret? Who do you think made sure Sarah's case stayed cold?" The realization hits like a physical blow. She's not Father's victim. She's his accomplice. "She's family," Emily corrects, closing the now empty cabinet. The kind that understands what loyalty means. Upstairs, applause erupts as Father concludes his speech. Through the ceiling, I hear him introducing the next speaker, Rebecca herself, his surprise guest of honor. "A touching story of reconciliation," Mother says, her smile sharp as broken glass. "The long-lost daughter returning to support her father's legacy, much more compelling than your bitter accusations." My phone is dead. The evidence folder feels impossibly heavy. "Tyler," I start, but Emily laughs. "Had an unfortunate accident on his way here. Nothing fatal, just delayed. Indefinitely." The basement door clicks shut. Brian's voice carries through. "All clear up here, sir. Ready when you are." Father's footsteps descend the stairs, each step echoing like a judge's gavel. He appears in the doorway, Superintendent's medal gleaming, Sarah's watch on his wrist matching the one in Mother's hand. "I tried to protect you from this, Kendra," he says, his voice carrying that familiar disappointment. "Tried to teach you about family loyalty, but you're just like Sarah, too stubborn to understand the greater good." "The greater good?" My voice cracks. "You killed her." "She killed herself," Mother corrects smoothly. "Just like you're about to do. The guilt of false accusations, the shame of trying to ruin your father's special day. The note's already in your handwriting. Emily's quite good at that." The shredder whirs one final time, destroying the last of Tyler's evidence. Above us, Rebecca's voice carries through the speakers, telling a heartwarming story of forgiveness and family redemption. Father steps closer, his shadow falling over me like it did when I was small. "The question is, Kendra, will you finally make the right choice? For your son's sake?" The basement feels smaller suddenly, the walls closing in. Mother holds out a glass of water, 2 white pills nestled in her other palm. Emily watches with that perfect practice smile. Through the ceiling, applause thunders as Rebecca concludes her speech about the power of family bonds. My phone stays dark. Daniel doesn't come. Sophie doesn't come. The police don't come. The Preston family takes care of its own. Father's watch catches the light again. Sarah's last possession, worn like a trophy. In Mother's hand, its twin gleams with accusation. And somewhere above, Rebecca, the daughter who chose loyalty over justice, continues to sell their perfect lie to a crowd eager to believe in happy endings. "Come now, sweetheart," Mother says softly, stepping forward with the pills. "It's time to make things right." The basement lights flicker as Mother holds out the pills. Behind her, Father's shadow looms larger than life. But something catches my eye. A reflection in the watch on his wrist. A tiny red light, blinking steadily. Sophie's wireless camera, still transmitting. I take the glass of water, hand trembling. "Before I do this, I want to know one thing." My voice breaks perfectly, just like Emily taught me when we were kids, practicing how to cry on command. Did Sarah beg? Father's composure cracks just slightly. She made her choice. Like Rebecca made hers? I lift the glass. To help you hide everything? Rebecca understood what family means. Mother says smoothly. What loyalty means. A noise upstairs. Footsteps, then Rebecca's voice cutting through the speakers. What loyalty meant was watching my mother die, standing guard while William Preston buried her in that ravine. I was 7 years old. Father lunges for the basement door, but it's already locked from the outside. Emily's perfect mask shatters as she realizes what's happening. You didn't actually think I'd trust you again, did you, Em? My hands steady now, I set down the untouched glass. Not after Brian. Not after Tyler. Through the ceiling, Rebecca continues, her voice carrying to every corner of the celebration hall. I played my part. The prodigal daughter returned to support her father's legacy. But every word, every meeting, every confession, it's all been recorded. Mother's hand shoots out, but I'm faster. The watch slips from her grasp, clattering across the floor. Tyler's accident wasn't an accident, I say, loud enough for Sophie's camera to catch. Was it, Father? You ungrateful... He starts forward, but freezes at the sound of police sirens. The thing about perfect families, I continue, backing toward the corner where the camera's hidden, is that they keep such detailed records. Mother's charitable foundation? Fascinating paper trail. All those payments to keep people quiet. Emily makes a small broken sound. The shredder was empty. Everything you thought you destroyed? Already uploaded. Live streaming right now along with this entire conversation. Rebecca's voice cuts through again. My mother wasn't his first victim, but she'll be his last. The basement door bursts open. Daniel leads the charge, followed by police officers. Behind them, I glimpse Tyler in his wheelchair, very much alive and holding a tablet displaying multiple camera feeds. William Preston, an officer steps forward. You're under arrest for the murder of Sarah Preston, and Father moves with unexpected speed, reaching into his jacket. But before anyone can react, Emily throws herself between us. Don't, she screams. Please, Daddy, don't make it worse. The gun clatters to the floor. Emily kicks it away, her perfect posture finally breaking as she sobs. I wanted to believe in you, she whispers. Both of you. But Ken was right. You never loved us. We were just props in your perfect family picture. Mother lunges for the gun, but Rebecca appears in the doorway, Sarah's missing diary in her hands. It's over, Martha. All of it. As the officers move in, Father's facade crumbles completely. Everything I did, he snarls, was for this family's reputation. No, I say quietly, watching them handcuff my parents. Everything you did was for yourself. And now everyone knows exactly who you are. Emily stands frozen between us, torn between her lifetime of loyalty and the truth she can no longer deny. Finally, she turns to me. I'm sorry, she whispers. About Brian, about Tyler, about everything. I was so scared of becoming you that I became them instead. Upstairs, the celebration hall erupts with chaos as Rebecca finishes playing the recordings. 30 years of secrets, exposed in a single night. Daniel reaches for my hand as the officers lead my parents away. Through the basement door, I see Tyler and Sophie dismantling their surveillance setup, while Rebecca clutches her mother's diary, shoulders finally unburdened of its secrets. Was it worth it? Emily asks softly. All of this? I look at the scattered pieces of our family's facade. Mother's mask of perfection shattered. Father's legacy in ruins. The truth finally exposed to the light. Ask me again in 20 years, I reply, watching the last Preston family secret disappear into a police car. When we've all had time to build something real from these ashes. The courtroom empties slowly after the verdict. Life without parole for father, 15 years for mother. Justice served in clean, measured sentences that can't begin to capture 30 years of manipulation and murder. Emily lingers in the back row, clutching Brian's divorce papers. She hasn't signed them yet, but her wedding ring is gone. You did the right thing, Rebecca says, touching my arm. She's wearing Sarah's watch now, recovered from evidence after the trial. Your testimony, it gave others courage to come forward. Through the window, reporters cluster on the courthouse steps, hungry for statements about William Preston's fall from grace. Tyler watches them from his wheelchair, his memoir already climbing bestseller lists. Ken. Emily's voice is small, nothing like the perfect Preston daughter she used to be. There's something else you should know about Jamie. My heart stutters. What about my son? Father. He was planning to take him. The night of the celebration. He had papers drawn up claiming you were unfit. That's why She swallows hard. That's why I finally helped you. I couldn't let him destroy another child. The revelation hits like a physical blow. Daniel's hand finds mine, steady and warm. The Preston family legacy, Tyler says bitterly. Always about the children they could control. But Emily isn't finished. There's more. Other families, other children, Mother's Charity Foundation. It wasn't just about hiding their crimes. They were collecting information, building files on anyone who might threaten their image. Rebecca pulls out her phone, showing us a downloaded database. Hundreds of names, dates, secrets. The true extent of my parents' web of control. What do we do with it? Sophie asks quietly. I think of Jamie, safe at home with Aunt Evelyn. Of the childhood Tyler lost, the mother Rebecca mourned, the sister Emily almost became. Of all the other families wounded by my father's obsession with perfection. We burn it, I decide. All of it. Let their secrets die with their power. But, Emily starts. No more revenge, no more exposing people's pain. We end it here. Tyler nods slowly, understanding. Break the cycle. Outside, the reporter's cameras flash as father's lawyer makes a statement. Through the glass, I watch my father's carefully crafted world crumble into headlines and sound bites. I should have protected you. Emily whispers. Both of you. All of us. You can protect others now, Rebecca says. Help us make sure this never happens again. Daniel squeezes my hand. Ready to go home? But before I can answer, a court clerk approaches with an envelope. This was found in William Preston's cell this morning, addressed to Kendra. Inside is a single photograph. Father and mother on their wedding day, young and smiling. But it's what's written on the back that makes my blood freeze. Ask your mother about her sister. Some family secrets even I couldn't control. Emily looks over my shoulder, her face paling. Mother had a sister? The photograph trembles in my hands. Another legacy of lies waiting to be unraveled. Another generation of Preston secrets threatening to surface. But looking at my chosen family, Daniel's unwavering support, Tyler's hard-won strength, Rebecca's quiet resilience, even Emily's stumbling steps toward redemption, I realize something important. It doesn't matter, I say, tearing the photograph in half. Whatever secrets are left, they don't control us anymore. The pieces flutter to the floor like autumn leaves, leaving behind the taste of something that feels almost like freedom. Almost. As we leave the courthouse, Tyler hands me a flash drive. Security footage from Father's office. There's more about Mother's sister, about others. I pocket the drive without looking at it. Some truths can wait. Some battles can be fought another day. For now, Jamie needs his mother. Daniel needs his wife. And I need to learn how to live without the weight of revenge pressing against my ribs. The reporters surge forward, microphones thrust like weapons, asking how it feels to destroy my own family. I think of the torn photograph, of Emily's unsigned divorce papers, of Tyler's best-selling truth, of Rebecca's quiet victory, of all the ways family can break and rebuild and transform. You can't destroy what was never real, I tell them, and walk into the sunlight, leaving the Preston family legacy behind in the shadows where it belongs. Almost.